You all set? We're good to go. Okay.
Hi, bud. Oh, thank you. Sorry, I have a cold. Oh. Hi, buddy.
Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Call the special meeting of the Municipal Council for Tuesday, October 24, 2017 to order. I'd ask you to please stand and join in the salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Just a reminder to my colleagues and those in attendance, if you have a cell phone or similar electronic device, if you would please turn it off or put it on an airplane so that it will not interfere with our broadcast to other parts of the city. Again, this is a special meeting, and at this time I would ask the City Clerk, Mr. Withers, to please read the notice for the special meeting for tonight.
October 3rd, 2017, to the members of the Municipal Council from Frank Cook, Council President. Councilors, by authority of Article 2, Section 2-7C of the Attleboro Home Rule Charter, I hereby call a special meeting of the Municipal Council as follows. Date, Tuesday, October 24th, 2017. Time, 7 p.m. Excuse me. Place, council chambers, and the purpose to hold public hearings and any other matters / other legal matter that may come before the council. CC Mayor Kevin J. Dumas.
Thank you. We have two public hearings scheduled for this evening. One is a brand new one, the other is a continuation. I would ask that Mr. Withers read the notice for the first public hearing.
Yes, the first public hearing tonight is relative to the petition from National Grid and Verizon to install new joint-owned pole number 4912 and guy wires to service new house at 93 Orange Street.
Thank you. So in the public hearings, I will first ask those who are in favor to come up and speak, then those who are in opposition, and then lastly those who are neither for nor against but have information that would be helpful to the council in rendering a decision. We ask that you come to the podium, you give us your name and address for the record, and any comments that may be directed to the council as a collective body, not to any one individual councilor. So at this time, again, relative to the poll location, is there anyone here to speak in favor of this item? Anyone to speak in favor? Didn't see anybody, right? Okay, is there anyone here to speak in favor relative to the relocation, the installation of a new poll location? Okay. Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition relative to new poll location? Is there anyone here to speak neither for nor against? Anyone to speak neither for nor against? Hearing none. Councilor Jackson, do you want to close this hearing and then deal with the committee?
Yes, I would.
Okay, thank you. So again, based on the recommendation of the chair, I'm going to declare that public hearing closed. We'll go on to the reading of the second and final public hearing.
Public hearing for a special permit from the Municipal Council from BCWC Inc. to operate a registered marijuana dispensary at property located at 34 Extension Street in Attleboro, and this is a continuation of a public hearing.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a continuation from the hearing that was held on June 6th. This time I would ask, is there anyone here to speak in favor? To come forward, please. Again, if we have your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, John Kenyon. I'm one of the directors of BCWC Inc. My address is 223 Orchard Woods Drive, Saunderstown, Rhode Island. This is a continued public hearing on a request for registered marijuana dispensary at 34 Extension Street. We made our presentation at your June 6th meeting. We completed our presentation that night. Since that time, we've been addressing some of the concerns that were raised. I believe we've addressed all of those, and we have no further presentation to make tonight. We can answer any questions that the council has.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the speaker, for the content?
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
John, I revisited the June 6th video because I wanted to get something straight, and I reviewed the zoning ordinances, and there's one issue that's troubling me, is that our ordinance for a registered marijuana dispensary states that the facility has to be 1,000 feet away from recreational area, or what essentially is turning out to be a recreational area. And during your presentation, you stated that the building was 1,007 feet from the lot line for the golf course. But that's not how the law is written. The law is written that the lot line has to be 1,000 feet from a recreational area. So if this council were to approve your application, we throw onto the Zoning Board of Appeals a challenge to give you a variance from an ordinance that we've written stating that the facility should be 1,000 feet from a recreational area. I'm wrestling with this, John. How can you help me out?
Well, first, we're actually closer than 1,000 feet. The building is a little over 100 feet from the golf course. The property line is, we share a property line with the golf course. I believe what we were saying at the meeting was that the golf course was not considered an area where children would be recreated. And there's actually been cases with the Massachusetts Department of Public Health where they've said that certain facilities like a golf course, they're not considered recreation for children. If it was obviously a playground, a Little League field, something like that, but just because children might go there, it's not something that's specifically for the use of children.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Oh, thank you. Are there any other questions? Councilor Hagan?
Thank you for coming in. Since the last time that you've been before us, the last time, what's changed? Where were you then? Where are you now? What's going on?
With the state?
Progress, no progress, everything, anything that you can disclose in front of us now?
Sure. When we were last before you, I believe we had just filed our management and operations profile with the state. That was approved. We were asked to submit a siting profile. We did that. They came back. They wanted 3 items. 2 of them were relatively minor. One of them was they wanted an appraisal certifying that the rent was fair market value. We submitted that to them 10 days ago. We were actually hoping we would get a response today so we could come in and tell you that we got our invitation for the provisional certificate, but we did not receive that. We anticipate receiving it in the next week or so. We also, in September, we met with several of the department heads, and they expressed some concerns, wanted additional information. We provided that to them, and that included a more detailed security plan, which the police chief wanted, and also a more detailed lighting plan, which the director of planning wanted. We did submit those, and I believe we addressed all their concerns.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councilor Conti?
So I'm a little slow, John, on the tape. If the golf course is used as an occasional area for children recreation, the use is still one of which children would recreation. So am I following your argument that because it's not exclusive children's recreation, that it's not a severe violation?
That's correct.
But it's a violation nonetheless.
No, under the state guidance documents, it wouldn't be considered a recreational area for children. So the 1,000-foot radius would not apply to it at all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Delizio?
Thank you. 2 quick questions, but one through the chair to Council Hall, if I could, because Council Conti, I raised that same point back in June.
Yes.
Before we bring this out, if we could have the city solicitor take a look and just get that answered in terms of the recreation, and does that fall under those guidelines?
The city solicitor is here tonight, so she can
Okay.
answer those questions.
I didn't realize she was up speaking, so that's why I asked the question.
Yep,
Thank you.
thank you. Yep.
Secondly, can you walk us through where are you in the process with the state? What are the next steps? Where do you go from here?
Well, the next step, as I said, we filed our siting profile, which is the last step before getting your provisional certificate. They requested 3 items. 2 of them were minor. One was an appraisal. We submitted that 10 days ago. We are hoping in the next week or so that we will get the approval for that. And then the next step after that is we pay a $50,000 fee and we would obtain our provisional certificate. The step after that is you then build it out, and once they come in and inspect it after it's built out, then you get your final certificate.
Thank you for that explanation of the provisional and everything else, so thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the council? For the speaker. Councilor Hagney.
I have another question. There's business in the council maybe for a moratorium on this. How does that affect you? And what you're, if, whatever you can legally and
Sure.
bindingly enforce?
If I can
Well,
just
I've only read-
If I can just clarify, that the issue of a moratorium has nothing to do with this particular facility or any other medical
That's what I wanted to.
facility. I just don't want to confuse the two issues of the recreational, just in case you weren't aware, just in case you were not aware of it. There is an item that has been presented.
I'll clarify.
Excuse me a second. There has been and just in case you were not aware of it, there is a issue pending before the council about a temporary moratorium on medical establishments, marijuana establishments, and by that, we're talking the non-medicinal medical establishments. That's a separate item totally from this, completely. So, I just want to clarify, I wasn't sure if you were aware of that, but I wanted you to be aware of that.
Thank you. If
Yes.
I will clarify, I just wanted it out there that this would not affect you and your process. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's what I wanted out there, because there's a lot of false information out there in today's world. So I just want that clarified.
Sure. That was our understanding of it also. I had only read about it in the paper, but from reading about it, it didn't look like it would
Yeah,
affect
and I
us.
consider this a primary source kind of forum, where we're getting it straight from the people and there's not an opinion attached to it, so thank you. It would not affect you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there, Councilor Conti?
Yeah, up for a third time, and I apologize, John, but you made a statement, and since you're right here, I might as well ask the question. You said in your answer to Councilor Delicio, you said that you're going through the steps, and one step was that the state was going to give you a site certification. Is that for the building, or is that for the location of the building, or is that the location and the building?
Well, the site includes the real estate and the building. So they do what's called the siting profile. So the first few steps, it's more about the directors and the team. And then they ask for the management and operations profile, which is how are you going to run the business, but not at a specific location. The third step is now tell us exactly where you're going to put this, and then they look into whether you're going to comply with those radius, which includes the 1,000 feet from a recreational area.
So if, maybe this is a question for our city solicitor, but if you are given the state site certification, does that disable this body from having any interaction on the site?
No, we have to obtain the special permit from this council as well as receiving the state approval.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilor Hall.
Yes, I just want to make a comment. So part of that, getting to the process, the steps, and I gave that chart out to everybody a few times as to where people are in the process. And you can see where the part about the non-opposition form letter comes in. And by giving that non-opposition, what we're saying to them at the same time is that we've reviewed the site that they are requesting, we reviewed that address, and we're saying as a city that that address complies with our ordinance. So I don't mean to step on the solicitor, she'll be up here to confirm that, but that's what that means. So it goes through both the building inspector looks at it, and the building inspector comes back and says, yeah, it complies. With the way we wrote the ordinance. So just to kind of put that out there, I think that will help clarify some of the.
Thank you for making that clear.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions from the council, for the speaker, at this time? I did want to let you know that once the public hearing is closed, the council has 90 days to render a decision. And I was curious if at this point in time, if you have any idea about if you get all the approvals from all the various agencies, state and local, when do you expect to commence operation?
Well, the first step is, once we receive the special permit and we receive the provisional, we would begin designing the plans, the full engineered building plan, submit that to the city for review, and then we'd start construction once those are approved. We would like to be open in spring of next year, if possible.
Okay. And I had one other related question. In terms of your potential customers, when potential customers come to you, since this is a medicinal facility, do they have to, in order to purchase products, do they have to provide a notification from a doctor or other healthcare provider in order to obtain the products?
Well, they do. They have to have a medical marijuana card from the Department of Public Health in order to get into the facility. So if you don't have that card, you can't even get into the facility. Once you're in, they are limited to a certain amount of product per every couple months. So we have to make sure they haven't gone to other facilities, so it's all in one computer system to ensure that they're not buying more than they should.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. Councilor Hall.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit, just a little bit while he's here about the process, because we've gone back and forth, that happens internally, because I think it's really important that people understand what the city of Attleboro does to protect ourselves in terms of this. It's not, that we don't have control. We have a lot of control, and they can tell you that. We did meet, and the ordinance says that there's 5 departments that have to give me input on this, and the 5 departments are public health, the police chief, the fire chief, the inspector, and the planning department. So those 5 in particular, and I did see that our planning department did send it out to 2 more. So every one of those department chiefs has looked at this. We've met all together too, and there was a lot of discussion of, in particular with the police chief, some concerns in terms of that, not concerns necessarily, but things that he wanted to see, to the extent of adding more cameras internally and externally, and having a direct feed that goes directly to our police department. And every one of these facilities that we entertain will have that kind of a stringent security. We also talked about the transportation of product and cash in and out, because that's also a concern. And so the police chief and the applicant had a very long discussion about that and how we would handle those kinds of things. I truly believe, I'm just saying this, it was not a stone unturned, and that's why we have taken so long. I know some people thought we were dragging our feet or putting obstacles. That's absolutely not true. It's so important that we were able to say that we went through every checklist we possibly could and thought of everything we could possibly think of to make sure this is a safe operation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We also offered to have that feed go directly to the fire department, because the fire chief was concerned if something happened there, they want to make sure that they're not running into something with potential chemicals or something like that. So if they have the feed, they can know exactly what's going on all the time there. The police chief indicated that Attleboro, I guess, has a licensing requirement for security companies. And fortunately, the company we're working with is licensed in Attleboro. So they provided more details to the chief, pretty elaborate set of plans for alarms, the security cameras, and so forth. So I believe we've met all his requirements.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions at this time? Okay. Is there anybody else before I ask anybody else in favor, is there anybody else from your team that you would like to have come up and say anything, or are you satisfied?
No, I mean, they're all here if you have any questions, or if the public has any questions, but they weren't planning on making a presentation.
Okay, no, the only reason I'm saying it was once I go on to the next phase of no, and then the others, the opportunity to speak will be gone at that point, when we won't be doing rebuttals back and forth. So I just want to make sure that you are aware of that.
No, I understand.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition? Is there anyone here to speak neither for nor against? Sir, if you come to the podium, please. And if we have your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Francis Balut, and I live at 120 Carrier Avenue in South Attleboro.
Okay.
And I'm here tonight for some assurances. Number one, I thought I heard at the beginning of that presentation that it referenced a registered facility. It did not say it was going to be a medical-only facility. So could somebody explain that to me a little bit more
If I heard you correctly, I believe, I'll try, but Council Hall, back me up. The medicinal facilities are referred to as a registered marijuana dispensary.
Dispensaries, yes.
Right, so they can only dispense their goods as proposed right now for medicinal purposes, which is separate from the other measure that was passed by the voters dealing with non-medicinal, which is referred to as a marijuana establishment in the law. So it comes down to the terminology used in the law. So this is a registered marijuana dispensary. The recreational is referred to as a marijuana establishment, and the state law differentiates between those two.
Yeah, and I think the
Council
word
Hall?
that I'll use here, and you probably will talk a military term that you probably understand. Remember, we used to call it a dispensary, where you go to get your medical care?
Okay.
Okay, so that's why that term makes it a difference. It's not that we're dispensing, but a dispensary being a medical establishment, if you would.
All right. Because I would like all of the council to understand that I am very much against recreational, whether they call it adult or they have some other name for it, that allows me to go over there and buy marijuana.
Mr. Balut, if I may, this hearing is only on a registered marijuana dispensary, right? In about 3 weeks, I think it is, there's going to be a public hearing relative to the proposed moratorium on the non-medicinal. So that would be the time for comments like that.
And I accept that, President Cook.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I also would like to say that I totally agree with Richard Conti in the fact that with the golf course being nearby, there are still parents that take children over there. They're going to start teaching them how to putt or do whatever. And I would like to see a greater distance between the buildings and the operation of people that are there. That's it for my comments tonight.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for the speaker? Okay, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else here to speak neither for nor against this proposal? Anyone to speak neither for nor against this proposal? Hearing none. Councilor Hall, as a chair of this committee, would you like to continue the public hearing, or would you like to close the public
I
hearing?
would like to close the public hearing.
Okay. Yeah, all right. So again, based on the testimony that we have received this evening, as well as the recommendation of the chair of the Zoning and Land Use Committee, I am going to declare this public hearing closed. That means that the 90-day clock begins to operate, and the council has to render a decision within 90 days of the closing of the public hearing. Okay? So that concludes our public hearings for this evening. There is some, what I'm going to do at this time is there are, we have a couple of items that need to be voted on later, but one of them has to be voted out of committee. At the same time, previously, we had made arrangements for the city solicitor to appear before the Zoning and Land Use Committee relative to some of the procedures that the council needs to follow relative to future actions or activities on the RMD. So what I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to be, just to explain, I'm going to be making a motion for a recess for the purpose of allowing Council Hall to have that part of her committee meeting. She is then going to recess because she has other business. And then, at that point, Councilor Jackson will convene her committee. She has an item that needs to be voted, that she's planning to vote out of committee tonight and have the council vote on this evening. At that point, we'll resume the meeting. There are a couple of communications that are going to be assigned to committee, and then a couple of matters to vote on. And in that way, Mr. Withers and Ms. Alger will be able to leave the Woburn and come back and continue with the committee meetings. Councilor Khan, you had a question?
Yes, Mr. President, if we could slide in a capital improvement and city development meeting, committee meeting, at the same time to vote the resolution for the capital improvement plan out of committee.
I would rather just stay with the original plan that I had planned, because at this point, the only thing that was being planned to vote on tonight were those two, there were two motions. There was a new business item, and then there was also that particular item. But given the fact that the city missed the deadline, we missed the deadline, I don't sense the urgency.
There is no urgency. You're absolutely
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. So this time, I would entertain a motion for a recess.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is in order. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We are in recess at 7:26. Council Hall,
Yes. So I'm holding my motions for,
do you want to come up here, or do you
Sure.
want to be there?
sure.
Just when you move out. That way you also have all the other stuff here.
Open my committee and then close it.
No, I'm not closing, just take the
Recess. Gotcha.
so you can reopen it.
Okie dokie. Perfect. Okay. Oh, I feel really short here.
You want a,
A cushion, a book,
how about another one? I'll give you a couple of them.
Okay.
Telephone book.
a telephone book would work great.
Exactly.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to call to order the zoning and land use committee at 7:30, looks like 7:37.
7:27.
7:27.
Oh, sorry, thank you so much. Okay, so what we're going to talk about right now is we will have, as piggybacking off what we've just discussed, the next step then is to issue the special permit. And there's some special requirements of how we have to go about issuing that special permit. And I think it's, because this is our first time we're going through this, I think it's very, very important that everybody understands what the requirements are and the restrictions and so forth. So I'm going to ask the city solicitor to come up. I have left with all of you this standards for granting permit. And Mr. Asian is going to also assist us with this tonight. So if you could grab that piece of paper in front of you, 17-9.4. Everybody have it? If not, I'll make sure you get it. Okay, and so if you'd like to just go ahead and start, that'd be great.
Good evening, everybody. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy that Gary has graciously agreed to also be here in case I have any questions about local procedure in terms of how special permits are generally issued in Attleboro, because we want to follow the same procedure that we always follow with special permits. I know generally that is the ZBA and the planning board, but even though you're the city council, you're going to be following the same law, zoning law. So when I met with you all in the spring, we discussed that currently we're under 40A Section 9, which required you to open the public hearing within 65 days, which you did. And then the hearing was held and continued until you got all of the evidence that you needed. And now the hearing has been closed. So now the clock starts to tick. And you have 90 days to issue your decision, and you have the right under 48 Section 9 to condition your approval. If you decide to issue the special permit, you can put reasonable, relevant conditions upon that special permit. If you fail to act within the 90 days, the special permit would be constructively granted. So you would just be giving them the permit with no conditions. So you want to make sure you act within the 90 days. One other thing I wanted to highlight to all of you is that I know that you're going to have a bit of a change of membership in January. So I would caution you that to make sure you have enough people, that everybody who's going to be making a decision on this permit needs to have been at every hearing. So I just want to caution you that you should do it before the end of the year to protect yourselves and make sure that you can make a decision. So that moves us on from state law, which is 48 Section 9, which gives you, as a municipality, the right to create an ordinance which requires them to get a special permit, which the city has done. That ordinance, as you are all well aware, and you've all looked at a million times, is 17-10.15. And that's what this public hearing has been all about, making sure that they meet all of the requirements, and they've come back and they've produced more evidence as required. Now, what you're going to do procedurally at this point, the public hearing's closed, you have to render a decision. So in Attleboro, you have a special permit ordinance, which is section 17-9.0, which is what Julie passed out to all of you. Section 4 of that particular ordinance is the standards you must go through to determine whether you're going to grant the special permit. Because remember, you're not deciding whether or not you want medical marijuana. That's not the decision before you. It's whether we're granting a special permit because the criteria have been met. So that's what you're looking at. So what will happen is at a council meeting, a motion will be made to grant the special permit to BCWC, and it should be read exactly the way it was advertised. And someone will second that motion, and then you will move to this document, ordinance 17-9.0.4, and you will go through each of the 6. There's 6 standards here, although the 6th one doesn't apply to this particular use. So you will go through the 5 criteria, one at a time. The standard should be read, and then you will deliberate, and you will determine, you will go standard by standard, and you will vote on each of the standards. You'll do a roll call vote so it's clear who voted which way, and you will need clear evidence as to why you voted the way you did in order for your decision to be properly supported under the law. So let me go through these standards with you really quickly. Standard 1, the requested use is listed in the use table. Well, that one's pretty easy because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't listed in the use table. So that'll be easy. We'll do roll call vote if you all decided it's in the use table. That we've made it through that one. Then you move on to the second one. The requested use will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. So then you would deliberate that particular standard, talk about the evidence that was before you, and then you would do a roll call vote whether you approve or deny based upon that criteria. You would you would want real substantial evidence as to why you think that is true. I mean, you can't just say, I don't want medical marijuana, so I'm voting no on this, because that's not what this standard says. You would have to basically prove that this particular thing would cause more, this is an industrial zone and it's supposed to have these kinds of uses. So you would have to have some real evidence of why this particular establishment is going to cause a problem under that criteria. Then you'd move on to the next similarly, and you'd go through each one. Number 3, the requested use will not overload any public water, drainage, or sewer system, or any other municipal system to such an extent that the requested use or any developed use in the immediate area or in any other area of the city will be unduly subjected to hazards affecting health, safety, or the general welfare. Same thing, you go through. Anybody who wanted to vote no would have to lay out all their reasons so they were on the record so that they could be put in the decision. If you get to any one of these, you're going to go down in order, and you determine that you need a supermajority of your 11-member board. So you need 8 votes in favor to move on to each of the additional criteria. If for whatever reason you don't get 8, then you stop there and you're done, and the special permit has been denied. If you get through all of them, and let's just keep going through them, the next one is the requested use will have a severe undesirable effect on the neighborhood, public, and environment that would be lessened significantly by denying or modifying the requested permit. And then the 5th one is any special regulation for the use set forth in section 17-10.0 special permit regulations are fulfilled. That particular one is what's referring you to 17-10.15, which is what you've been looking at all along, the registered marijuana dispensary uses ordinance that you passed. So, on that particular one, I know that you have asked for guidance from all of the staff, and all of the staff has now weighed in, and Gary is here in case anybody had any question about that one, but it's my understanding that the staff determined that the criteria in 17-10.15 has been met. So that's what that one is getting at. And then there's a sixth criteria, which is not relevant here. Uses whether or not on the same parcel as activities are necessary in connection with scientific research. So we don't worry about that one. So if you get through every single one of those and you get 8 votes, then you'll take, I'll just finish it, one last sentence.
Yeah,
You'll take one last roll call vote, motion to approve the special permit, and you'll go through every person, yes or no, and if it gets the 8 votes, the special permit is approved.
Okay, are there any questions at this
Yes,
point?
go
Councilor
right ahead.
Coates, yeah.
I just have a question about the 8 votes, and I saw a few people's head go up because we only have 10 counselors now because,
Yes, I
so
move.
will it be 7 votes or is
No.
it still 8?
It's still 8, because under zoning law, now it depends upon the body of law you're under. And in zoning law, it's the board. So the statute is 48, section 9, and the language is, a special permit issued by a special permit granting authority should require a 2/3 votes of boards with more than 5 members. So it goes on to say 4 of a 5-member board are unanimous if you're a 3-member board. So obviously you're the more than 5-member one. So we look at the membership, and there's
Then
case law
Mr.
on this.
DeLucio, then I got Mr. Cook.
The 11.
That's great.
So it's 8.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Councilor DeLucio?
Thank you. I have a few, if that's all right?
Yeah,
Great. Sure. Kind of piggyback, first of all, it's always nice to see you, Solicitor.
nice to see you.
Piggybacking on that, so where we don't have the Ward 5 counselor currently,
Yes,
how is that going to work when they come in? Are they not going to be able to participate in any discussions on
they
this?
will not be able to participate, no, because they've missed all the public hearings.
Okay. And then, along those same lines, what happens if we're not able to render a decision and this ends up going into the next term? What does that do to the process? I'm obviously hoping it doesn't get to that point.
Right.
It just makes it messy as long, so 90 days is without a doubt. Tonight is the night that we calculate 90 days.
Yep.
If you don't come to a final decision, special permit granted, no conditions. If we get to January, you're gonna probably wanna have at least 8 counselors that still were here before, and I know you're losing. Your president's not running. I'm not sure of anything else. So just as a cautionary, I think it would be wise to get it done before December.
Okay.
And that's, go ahead, and that's the plan, just so everybody knows, definitely.
Figured as much, but,
Because your risk is some sort of constructive approval.
right. Okay. Do all the standards need to be passed in order to move forward? So what if the second standard fails? What impact does that have on the process?
You're done and then it's denied.
Okay.
So the second one, let's just do a hypothetical. The requested use will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian traffic. So if you went around on that one and you didn't get 8 votes, you'd be done.
Okay.
But you would want to make sure whoever voted no put really good evidence in the record,
As to why?
because these things are subject to appeal.
Yep.
And a court could overturn our decision if they don't think our evidence was good enough to deny the permit.
Very good. 2 last questions.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep,
Can
no,
we
it's important.
touch upon the recreation piece of it in terms of the distance and whether or not, in your opinion, the golf course qualifies as recreation, doesn't qualify as recreation?
Yeah, let me just read that provision.
Sure, thank you.
So it says it has to be 500 feet from any public park, recreation area, or facility in which children commonly congregate. So I think that language, in which children commonly congregate, I don't think that the golf course would fall into that provision. I'm thinking that this goes more to like a park with swings and, you know, something that's really made for children. I don't think of a golf course as that.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And last question is, how, if at all, will this, if this passes and goes through, how will that impact other potential RMDs? Because I know we have business in
Yes.
front of the council. So is there any potential impact?
There's not really any impact at this time. I don't think you have any sort of limit on the quantity of RMDs you can have. I think you should look at each application on its own and decide if that particular application meets the criteria. And I don't think you should let one application sway. And, you know, obviously you're going to learn about the process through each application, but I think you take each applicant on its own and determine objectively if they meet the standards.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you. Good, great questions.
Did you want to add
Mr.
something,
Cook?
Gary?
Yeah, I guess,
Sorry?
Gary Eurasian, the city's planning director, I think the only implication it would have is then this would be should the municipal council vote to issue the special permit, so this would be the first one in the city. So the only implication that would be is that it would become item D1B. It would now be a reference point, so no other facility could be within 1,000 feet of it, so that's the only implication.
Good point.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Cook? President Cook, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Council Hall. I just wanted to, as a follow-up relative to the vote, I just wanted to inform all of you that in anticipation of October 1st, when I knew we were down one member, I had previously, totally separate from this particular item that's before us, had asked the city solicitor for guidance in terms of voting requirements, especially when it came to 2/3 on certain issues. And she had responded, and again, the 2/3, it depends upon whether it's covered by the charter or state statute or whatever. In some cases, it's just a simple majority. So it's not only on this issue, but a lot of the other issues, if you look back at the last couple of meetings that we've had when we voted, I sometimes it clarified that we needed like 8 votes or whatever, because of the research that the city solicitor had done. So it wasn't just in this issue, but it was across the board on everything, so that we weren't going to miss any votes or vote something and then find out later that it was incorrect. So, thank you.
I think Council Perka is next.
Just very
And
quickly,
then Council,
Vice President Cooper.
thank you, Vice President Cooper. I know, I made a faux pas. You'll be next. Thank you.
Just because these things are very important, as we've all learned a lesson previously, do you have a hard date for the 90 days? Because I just calculated it. I don't know if we count today because we closed the public hearing, if we count. So what is the date?
Oh, I haven't calculated the date, I'm sorry. I would use I usually use a date calculator. You can find one online. And just,
I just
Yeah.
honestly took Vice President Cooper's thing, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm assuming we count Saturdays and Sundays and
yes.
holidays and
Yeah,
all those
you
things,
count
because
all
sometimes
90.
that doesn't happen
No,
when we're
that,
calculating
here
things.
you count all 90 days.
So I don't know,
Yeah.
do we count today or?
You don't count today.
Okay, so January 21st, which is a Sunday.
So do it before the 21st. Don't wait till Monday.
No, yes.
Yeah,
but I just-
sometimes that's a rule.
So it is my expectation that we will vote this out in December. However, I think it's important that we are all cognizant of the actual hard date, just as a
Yeah,
point
no,
of.
good point. Thank
It's a
you.
budget lesson.
Mr. Cooper?
Exactly.
Oh,
I wasn't
Mr.
going to
Ration,
say
did you
that,
want to
but there
comment?
it is.
Should I answer?
Yes.
Can I just follow up on it?
Yes, you may.
Okay, it's not only so much to render the decision, we have to, record the decision, all that too, so we have to build that, build that into it too. So we have 90 days. The ordinance allows for the decision to be filed with the city clerk within 2 weeks of rendering a decision. Okay, so we also have to build that timeline into it as well, okay? So I don't want to get too technical tonight, because I doubt you're going to take the 90 days, but if we get close to that, if we get beyond 60 days, I know I'm not involved, but I'm involved.
Yeah.
I will flag you if we're getting too close to the time where we have to write the decision, because there's all that logistics. You render a decision. And as city solicitor said, we need those cogent reasons why, if you don't get 8 votes on anything, we build that into it. And then we will give that back to the city council, as we do with the zoning board and planning board, for everyone to get a good review. You're all comfortable, you just tell us yes. then Mr. Cook would sign the decision and we record it. So we got to build that timeline of logistics into the overall decision-making, okay?
You may.
Thank you.
There's one other thing that I should have spoken on, and Gary, you could maybe stay for this.
Yeah.
In terms of the conditions, so we would get through the criteria, and then you'd have to debate the conditions. That's how you usually do it, correct? Do you want
Yeah.
to speak to that a little bit?
Sure. So my experience with the zoning board of appeals and the planning board, we pretty much know before going into the meeting which way the board's going to go. So we'll have conditions ready. This is my first time with the city council on this. This is the first time we've ever entertained this kind of a permit. So what I didn't want to do, what I don't want to do is be presumptuous and come in with conditions of approval. But we have to think about that as well. I could prepare some without being presumptuous to let you know I'm writing some. So these are some professional conditions that we think I will work with Lauren. I think if they're technical in nature with respect to remote surveillance with the fire department and the police department, we'll nail down the particular language, so we're not fussing around with that. So if the council wants, we'll prepare that, the staff will prepare it, but I ask you that with humility because I don't want you to think in any way we're being presumptuous that you're going to grant the permit and therefore we had them ready. So if you want, we could start working on those now.
And you and I have spoken about that.
Yeah,
And some of
so-
the conditions that we wanted. So we've been talking about this with with also the police chief and some other folks and the solicitors, some of the conditions that we wanted to put in there. So that's another thing. I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt.
No,
but
that's
that's
okay.
what when Gary and I said, I mean, this gives us, the fact that it is a special permit does give us that, at least that additional control to put items in there, more safeguards if we want to, as opposed to less. So it really ends up being sort of a neat process. It gives us an awful lot of control.
So without knowing who's going to vote which way, just what we could do is submit those through Linda to get those to you, so you'll have them. And should you vote in the affirmative, where you've got the 8 votes throughout all the standards or the findings for the special permit, then at least you'll have some template, you'll have some conditions, and of course you can add to them, delete them, reword them, whatever the case is, but we could have those ready for you, so.
Absolutely, thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, and just to everybody, the next process is preparing that, and that in itself, and preparing all of these, if you would, is sort of a chore, and those conditions. So Gary has offered to do that, which I greatly appreciate, because...
And again, I'll work
Perfect.
closely with Lauren as we
course.
always have on this.
And just to know, it's not just something we're just deciding right now. We have been talking about this for a long, long time. This has been something that's evolved, and things that we've thought of, and things that the police chief has requested, so hopefully we'll have some good stuff to show you. Did you have anything?
If you don't mind, thank
I
you.
don't.
Thank you very much for walking us backwards through that, because again, for the timeline, that's necessary, because we need to know what that is. So if there's the potential for like a target vote date, like what night you have the potential for
The next
voting that out or
available time.
whatever, that would be
Yep.
terrific.
My plan is the next available time that I can take this out of my committee, I'll take it out of my committee.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. Probably to both of you. I'm still sort of somewhat perplexed, and it may be because of the special permit versus other votes that I've taken, both on the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board. As you know, members of those boards life happens and they can't be at every meeting, and there have been votes that I know that I took on both of those boards, and then I was a new member to this council in an off-cycle election, if you'll all remember that. And I had to go back and review the videos at the meeting, the
That you missed,
tapes,
yeah.
that in order to make those votes on things that I wasn't present for. And I believe Frank asked me prior to that vote, did you see that? So is this different when we're getting a new member sort of off-cycle in November that could potentially or not vote on this depending on the timing because it's a special permit? Is that why this particular counselor would not be able to vote because they couldn't review the, sort of walk me through that. I'm sort of I'm
Yeah.
slightly uncomfortable because I know that I have done that
Well,
myself.
what you're talking about is the Mullen Rule, and that's perfectly appropriate, but there's limitations on that. Like, so
Okay.
this individual has missed all of the public hearings.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what your ordinance looks like on that, but I will double check it most certainly. Do you have
Yeah,
anything to
and
add
also,
on that?
it is the Mullen Law, but on a special permit, you have to be at that public hearing.
Okay.
You have to be at the public hearing.
Thank you. That's the distinction.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary.
It's actually specifically for the special permit that you have to be. Some of the ones, slight digression, if Mark didn't attend the planning board meetings on the subdivision control law, then on the Mullins rule, you can demonstrate that if you went back and read the record, then you could state for the record that I did. And therefore, if the rest of the board says, okay, if Mr. Cooper or Mr. Joe Smith read the record, fine, then we could move forward. But for the special permit specifically, it calls it out that you have to be at the public hearing.
Great, thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
No,
One last
don't
one.
be
So,
sorry.
When we were talking about special conditions for the special permit, how does that work, again, with the other one, anyone else that comes in? Is that setting precedent, or is every application its own entity altogether?
You're not bound by precedent.
Everything's its own application.
Great. And that's a good point, very good question, because
Yeah.
where these things are situated already, we're looking at very different circumstances. The police chief responds to locations differently too, depending on the area that they're asking to put. So yeah, I mean, this really allows us to make sure that every single one of these things is, the only word I can
They're all
think of
unique,
is.
and they're all unique,
yeah,
and you are not bound by
uptight.
precedent.
We did. And one thing before anybody leaves, I guess, is I just want to make sure, since you have this in front of you, and I know you haven't had time to really digest it, but if there's any questions about any one of these things and we have the people here to answer them tonight, I mean, if you would like the time to ask, and like, for instance, I would like, if I could, Mr. Kenyon to come up and respond to about the traffic, because he and I had a lot of discussion about traffic. And one of the questions that I had on behalf of another constituent is how many, we're sort of looking at the number of people. I'm sorry?
I think the
Well,
public
it's my
hearing.
Public hearing is closed. You cannot do that
Okay,
at
I
this point.
can't ask him as part of my
No.
committee?
No, not at this point, because the public
Okay,
hearing is closed.
good. Well, then I'll answer the question myself about that. So I had a constituent that had some concerns. And so I went up to, and I said, listen, I'm going to go up to the industrial park and I'm going to see, how many cars are up there. There were over 1,000 cars up there. Every one of those businesses up there has parking lots for 500 some odd people. I was here at lunchtime and there was a flow of traffic. And I basically said to the individual, the least of your worries is this operation. It's really a lot of the businesses that are going on. So it is in an industrial area that part of this is going to, I mean, there's already a lot of traffic that happens on, I don't want to say a lot of, but there's already traffic that goes there. And I don't foresee that this operation would have anywhere near that kind of impact. This is a very, very small operation. And besides the number of people, if you think about a doctor's office and the number of people that might come in and out, that's what you're talking about. And so I kind of compared that to the people that I saw coming out of the industrial park, and, it's kind of why we put them in that area. We already assume that there's a large amount of traffic. But I did want to make sure that we did cover that, and we were conscious about that, because I'm sorry, I don't want to get off topic real quick, but as we start to build up, and we want some of those factories and buildings to be occupied, there's some pretty big parking lots up there. So this one is very minimal compared to what could happen up there. Yes.
I want to make one point clear to myself and the rest of the council, is that should we grant a special permit and the property changes hands, does the special permit travel with the ownership, with the land?
I would recommend, you can make a condition. I would recommend that be a special condition. Is that what, if you want to keep it with that entity? I mean, also with
It's not
this.
transferable.
Yeah, I would just make it clear in a condition of the special permit that it's not non-transferable. There is a process with this, so they would have to go back to the state if they were going to change ownership, and that's a whole process. I just went through this in another municipality. But if that's a concern of yours and you want to make it crystal clear and there's no questions, you can make that a condition of the permit. So I think the general law on special permits is they run the land unless otherwise specifically conditioned.
So we can here state that the special permit does not travel with the land.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I think
Yes,
that's,
absolutely.
yeah, and I think that's one of the things that we talked about too, and different kinds of things. I know there were some other concerns, so I think once that gets done, everybody will be able to look at it, and if they feel like we don't have enough of them. But one of the things we do, I don't want to say caution, because I'm not saying this in a very positive way. Caution is just, we don't want to over-regulate any business more than we would, we don't want to give any particular business an over-scrutiny than we would give to any other business. And I think that's one of the things. Now, the state does give us the opportunity for certain things to do, but when it comes to the bottom line, this is a business. This is a medicinal dispensary, and it is a business. And if we, keep focused on that and handle it the same way we would handle most other businesses, that will kind of keep us, in my mind, in the right direction. Fair enough? Does anybody have, seriously, I mean, this is really important, so if anybody does have any questions.
Well, I think the only thing I would add, you talked about scrutiny, and it's a little different because it is by special permit.
Right.
So it's not by right. So because it is by special permit, therein lies inherently that it is subject to this review, which is, what do you call it, a review, scrutiny? We
Right.
wouldn't really call it
Yeah,
that.
so in other words, the scrutiny in
So
some
there is,
instances has been done.
so it is
Yeah.
elevated, because it is a special permit. So I just, for the record, it's not, to compare it to a by right use. So it is special, hence they're before us getting this permit. So there is an elevated review process of it.
Yeah, so that, and that given, that's right. And there's also a scrutiny by the state also, which a lot of other businesses don't go in. So we have to remember that, side by side, that little document that I showed you, that's happening at the same time with them. So there's a lot going on to get one of these things in. Mr. Blaze.
Not to cut you short,
No.
Julie, because you've done a hell of a job on this.
Thank you, I
But
appreciate that.
this is a public hearing. We are going to have a committee. This will come back.
This is a committee.
Public hearing's closed. This is her committee right now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's quite all right. Nope, the public hearing's closed. This is a committee, so since we have the whole group here, that's where I'm opening up for any questions. So, none of us like to have any surprises when we finally go to the vote. So that's what I'm trying to avoid right now, and for everybody to have the clarification. It's very complicated, it is, believe me. I spent hours, and I spent a lot of time with Gary, and a lot of time with Frank, and a lot of time with Lauren, so, and worth it all, so. Anything else? I don't want to cut anybody short.
No, I just,
Okay.
we will have further discussion on this. No?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
And Gary will come back to answer.
If you would like, sure.
Gary will
Sure,
come back.
and if you have any questions, like I said, if you have any questions that you want, feel free to talk to Gary on your own, send them to me. I mean, Gary and I will be talking again. You will see the conditions also. So what you're going to see next from Gary and me and Lauren is the actual vote, if you would, the motion, if you would, with all of the items listed here, and then all the conditions. So that would be, basically what you're going to see is how the motion's going to be read. Yes.
Just one, when do you think you're going to take this up? Not to say that if you said a particular date that you're compelled to do so, just so that we know we've got other things to do, obviously, to kind of work this into the queue of work, so.
Sure.
To give you a quality product. So
Sure.
what are you looking at?
The next committee, not,
November 14th.
yeah, what is it? I'm sorry. November
The next
14th.
scheduled committee meeting is November 14th. November 14th.
14th.
Right.
Okay,
Right,
so.
we're not meeting next week, it's a
Okay, so
Tuesday.
If
We have
Lauren and
regular
I
meeting.
jointly give something to Linda prior to the 14th, that works for you?
Yes.
Maybe by the 7th, so that gives you some time also to read it prior to the committee meeting.
Is
Yeah.
that good for everybody else if you get it by the 7th? Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Anything else before I let going once, going twice? Oh, do I do this? So I'm going to go, so I'm going to call for a recess of the Zoning and Land Use Committee.
Second.
Second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're in recess.
Counselor Jackson?
Thank you. I think I'll just stay from my seat. So I'd like to call Public Works Committee to order at 7:57. I have two motions this evening that I'm going to bring on a committee, and only one is going to be voted on this evening at our regular meeting. The first motion is I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor in accordance to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, Section 12, Subsection B, to approve the 20-year, 240-month net metering agreements with Nexamp Solar LLC for the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant. Ooh, I need a second. Second, thank you. We discussed this last week at my committee meeting. There was a question from Vice President Cooper and also Counselor Conti, and I have answered their question. And the question was if there was any approval for any changes to the contract. Is it the city council that would be doing that, or is it the mayor? And is the mayor, because the mayor is the one who signs the contract. So, any questions, comments? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Secondly, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $453.24 from account 142010000-548040 Public Works Supplies Equipment to account 1420100-578020 Public Works previous year's bills in order to pay an invoice to Pascal Service Corp. In the amount of $400 and an invoice to Auto Plus in the amount of $53.24 from fiscal year 2017.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments? This is to pay a previous year's bill. You better pay them. You better pay them. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. I entertain a motion to adjourn the Public Works Committee.
Second.
Thank you. All those in
You're
favor?
welcome. Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes, and we are adjourned at 8 PM. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, what was that, the vote was, you voted that out in the committee?
The committee, yeah.
So you're only trying to bring it out.
Right, I'm only doing one motion tonight, correct.
Just want to make sure I have that correct.
Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Okay. That was a 3-0 vote, correct?
I'm sorry?
Okay, that was a 3-0 vote?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, just a minute. All right. You ready to go, Chief? Okay. Super. We'll come back with mayor's communication. Yeah, we'll come back with mayor's communication. Mayor's communication. Right, and then we'll do the 3 years report, that one, and then do this.
No, sir. On my dad's.
No, you can. You don't do that song. That's what I'm saying.
Stuff about.
My voice is so kind of.
I blocked them, but I guess there's a new video of it today.
Let me just hear the states. I'm infuriated.
Thank you. All right, ready to go? Going sound man with a communication. Communication. Okay. Call the council meeting back to order at 8:05. We'll now proceed with the reading of the mayor's communication.
October 24th, 2017. Dear municipal councilors, I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Public Works Lance Hill regarding a donation of $379,140 from Columbia Gas. This donation from Columbia Gas will allow City to complete the paving on Pleasant Street and West Street, with any residual funds applied to complete paving projects on other streets impacted by Columbia Gas. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to approve expending this generous donation to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
Public Works Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Veterans Services Ken Batcheter regarding the donation of $250 in Stop and Shop gift certificates from an anonymous donor. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept these generous donations to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Schools David Sawyer regarding the following donations. Office chairs from the Attleboro Social Security Office with a current estimated value of $500. One used Matter Mod T3D printer from Eric and Roxanne Hanna to Coelho Middle School with an estimated value of $250. And also some books gifted to Attleboro Public Schools from the bookstore An Unlikely Story in Plainville, Mass. With a total value of $103.96. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept these generous donations to the City of Attleboro. Copies in your packets.
City Property and Claims Committee, please.
I respectfully submit for confirmation by your honorable body the appointment of Nigel Popat, 19 Carnegie Way, to fill an expired term on the Cultural Council, term to expire 2020. Copies in your packets.
Personnel and Human Services Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from City Auditor Deborah Gould regarding the amount due from the city to the school department under a memorandum of understanding on the revenue sharing agreement for the Medicaid reimbursement program. Therefore, I respectfully request your honorable body to appropriate $116,632.14 from account undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account school appropriation Medicaid to fund the municipal sharing agreement. Upon approval, the available balance in the undesignated fund balance free cash will be $506,744.86. Copies in your packets.
Budget and Appropriations Committee, please.
Sincerely, Kevin J. Dumas, Mayor.
Thank you. And the other communications, please.
We have a lot of other communications. It's that time of year.
All right.
We received a communication from the Leonard J. Irving Center, Inc., 81 West Street, Suite 2112, Attleboro, Mass., requesting a letter of non-opposition for a proposed registered marijuana dispensing, cultivation, processing, and dispensing facility at either 70 Mossberg Drive or 527 Pleasant Street.
Zoning and Land Use Committee, please.
We also received a communication dated October 23rd, 2017 from BCWC, Inc., 679 Washington Street, Suite 8, South Attleboro, Mass., relative to the request for a special permit to operate a registered marijuana dispensary at 34 Extension Street, stating that the presentation was completed at the last public hearing and that the applicant has addressed the concerns raised by the Director of Planning and Development and other department heads, and they will be available to answer questions at the October 24th, 2017 public hearing.
Zoning and Land Use Committee, please.
We have a couple of Class 1 auto license renewals from Courtesy Auto Group, Inc., doing business as Courtesy Kia Mitsubishi, 795 Newport Avenue, Attleboro, Mass., for 40 customer parking spaces and 195 display spaces. And also from Courtesy Auto Group, Inc., doing business as Courtesy Kia Mitsubishi, 11 and 16 Scott Street, Attleboro, Mass., for 34 customer parking spaces and 172 display spaces.
License Committee, please.
We have several 2018 Class 2 auto license renewals from, first one's from 100% Auto Wholesalers, LP, 21 Washington Street, Attleboro, Mass., for 10 customer parking spaces and 48 display spaces. Also from Bristol County Auto Sales, LLC, 227 Pine Street, Attleboro, Mass., for 10 customer parking spaces and 10 display spaces. Also from Cam's Automotive Service, doing business as Paris Auto Body, 21 Chartier Street, Attleboro, Mass., for 9 customer parking spaces and 20 display spaces. Also, East Coast Auto Sales, Inc., 24 Rice Street, Attleboro, Mass., for 14 customer parking spaces and 40 display spaces. Also from Joe and Mary's, Inc., /Gas Plus, 80 Pleasant Street, Attleboro, Mass., for 10 customer parking spaces and 24 display spaces. And finally, from South Attleboro Auto Sales, Inc., 411 Washington Street, Attleboro, Mass., for 10 customer parking spaces and 30 display spaces.
License committee, please.
We also received an application for 2018 renewal automatic amusement device license from Demoulas Supermarket, Inc., or Market Basket at 1200 Newport Avenue, Attleboro, Mass., for 1 merry-go-round and 1 truck for weekdays only.
License committee, please.
And finally, an application for 2018 renewal automatic amusement / coin op license from CEC Entertainment, Inc., Chuck E. Cheese, number 464, at 287 Washington Street, Attleboro, Mass., for 12 video games and 53 skill / kiddie rides.
License committee, please.
And that is all.
Okay, thank you. That time of year.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Well, fortunately, it was good to see the number of these that were renewal and that they were getting them in early.
Yeah.
That ordinance change has definitely helped. Okay, next thing on our agenda is the committee reports. The only committees that the committee I'm going to call upon will be Councilor Jackson, because I will make sure that I call for a committee meeting at the appropriate time, but we'll be doing that in a couple of weeks anyway, so we'll be all set, rather than go around and have everybody do it. So Councilor Jackson, I recognize you at this point.
Thank
Please.
you, President Cook.
You're welcome.
From the docket of October 17th, 2017, I move to approve the request of the mayor in accordance to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30B, Section 12, Subsection B, to approve the 20-year, 240-month net metering agreements with Nexamp Solar LLC for the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant.
Second?
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion is in order. Are there any comments, please?
We had representatives from Nexam Solar LLC here last week to answer any questions. There was one question which I was able to give the answer to, which is why I held it in my committee last week. And we should be good to go.
Okay, good, thank you. Are there any other concerns or comments? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Delicio, please.
Mr. Delicio.
Yes.
Ms. Zoll.
Yes.
Mr. Conti.
No.
Mrs. Parika.
Yes.
Vice President Cooper.
Yes.
Ms. Agney.
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
You say yes?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Ms. Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Blair.
Yes.
President Cook.
Yes,
9 yeas, 1 nay.
motion passes.
Thank you. I have no further business this evening, but would like to call for a committee meeting at the appropriate time next week. Thank you.
Thank you. And then, let's see. Jackson, Councilor, Vice President Cooper, if you would do the honors of just switching seats with me for a moment. I'll just take this with me. And there's a model right there.
Wake up, Coop.
For new business, recognize Council President Cook.
Thank you. From the docket of November 7th, 2017, I entertain a motion to refer the following matter to the appropriate committee for study and recommendation. To reevaluate the parking issues and erect proper signage on Riverbank Road.
Second.
Thank you. Councilor Blair. Mr. Cook, any comment?
Thank you. Yes. I had been contacted by the DPW Director, Lance Hill, regarding some work that they will be doing in the spring of next year along Riverbank Road. As some of you know, if you've been down there, the parking at times can be a little bit hazardous to some people. There are cars that tend to sometimes speed coming from the area of Mechanic Street down that way. As you know, there are now some businesses down there. The Skyrock Brewery recently opened. And in speaking with Director Hill on site and visiting the site, with him, as well as talking to him on a couple of occasions, including, about 3 hours ago, on this matter. They are planning to do some sidewalk construction as well as some road reconstruction in the spring. What the DPW would like is to address some of these parking issues in terms of where parking should be allowed, how long, et cetera, et cetera. And they would like to have that in place before they start doing the work. So in other words, in the spring, they don't want to have to be coming back while in the midst of doing any of the work and trying to deal with the process of getting public hearings and so forth, so you get the correct signage down there. Dr. Hill told me that he would like me to get this in as soon as I could, because there is a traffic study commission meeting, I believe, on the 14th of November. And he wants to talk about at that time to come up with specifically what they have in mind. I know I plan to be at that meeting because from having been down there, I do have some notes and some of the information in terms of what they're looking at to try to address the various concerns for the businesses there, for the people that use it, and so forth. So again, basically, this is just to get this into the appropriate committee, get it before the Traffic Study Commission so that they can come up with specifically what they want to do. So all of the ordinances will be taken care of before they start the work. So when they do the work, they can then just put up the appropriate signage. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councilor Cook?
Yes, first of all, President Cook, I have to apologize to you. I looked at this quickly, and I still tend to confuse our brand-new Riverfront Drive
Okay.
with Riverbank Road.
Okay.
This is I will fully sue it. I read it quick, and I was like, but we just changed those.
Yeah.
So that was what my
Right.
initial response was to that. I have actually also had conversations, I believe that some of my fellow councilors have had conversations with residents and businesses in that area. And I too have also spoken with Lance with regards to this business and with the construction that's happening in the springtime. I fully support bringing in this new business, and I'm happy to bring it to traffic study.
Okay. Thank you. No, I appreciate that. As I said, this was one of the roads in the ward that I represent, and I've too have heard from some of the neighbors, and having gone down there and met with some of the businesses and so forth, and observed the traffic. And sometimes really whipping by, it's amazing that we haven't had any serious incidents down there at this point. So I appreciate your willingness to help move this forward. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, problems? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, motion passes. Going to refer this to Transportation and Traffic Committee, and I'd entertain a motion. Do I need to entertain a motion?
We just have to ask her to refer it to the, as a chair.
Would you like to refer this to the Traffic Study Commission for study?
I would, thank you very much.
Second, right? You need a sec?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
If you want, let somebody else wants a second.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Shannon?
Take your packet.
Thank you. Let me just write this down. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you.
Let me just finish my notes. That's for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Cooper. I think these are yours.
That's my, yeah. Those are my cheat sheet
Okay.
notes.
So at this point, that concludes everything for the purpose of the special meeting for this evening. We're going to go back to the committee reports in just a moment. I just wanted to remind everybody, on Thursday night, two days from now, we will be meeting here in the council chambers for an update on the Attleboro High School project. I have invited the school committee to join us. This is not a joint meeting, but I have invited members of the school committee to attend, and they in turn have extended that invitation to members of the administration. I also spoke with the principal, Bill Rooney. He will be here. The meeting will start at 6 o'clock, and there will be some sort of a presentation involving the whiteboard here. So again, there won't be any other business we're going to be doing that night. I've been told that this the meeting will go on, depending upon questions and so forth, a couple of hours, maybe longer. I think it will depend upon the length and breadth of our questions. But although it is a public meeting, we will not be taking input from the public. We will not be doing any other business on that particular night. That's it. Yes, question?
I do teach Thursday nights.
Okay.
And I've had to switch my schedule because of all the other election stuff going on candidates night, so I cannot get a sub for this night. for that, but as Mark said before, life happens, and I can go back and watch the video.
Yeah, it will be a broadcast, and again, just in preparation, because, as you know, I think it's November 9th is a deadline fast approaching with all this, and then depending upon how things move after that, at some point, the council will be being asked to take a vote about putting this onto the ballot. So, when that's going to take place is up in the air at the moment, but you'll probably have to speculate at this point. Okay, so with that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn the special meeting. Thank you, the motion's in order. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We're adjourned at 8:20. We'll go on to the committee reports. And just for my own edification, who was canceling, anybody canceling their committee meeting?
Traffic and transportation is canceled for this evening?
Okay, thank you.
Public safety emergency management is canceled this evening.
I'm going to cancel, but I have a quick announcement.
Okay, ordinance is going to cancel. Anybody else canceling? I know we're going to resume with Councilor Hall, and then we'll just continue around like that. And Councilor, you already finished yours at that point, right? So, okay. So thank you very much. And I'm going to give up this chair, and I just have to touch base with Linda before she leaves, so you can come back and do it over here if you want.
Real quick, while I have everyone, on Sunday from 3 to 4:30, the Attleboro Youth Commission is hosting what they call the Spooky Maboo, kind of like a thingamabob, but they call it a Spooky Maboo. So it's going to be a Halloween party from 3 to 4:30, and then we'll have entertainments, games. I think we're going to have the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown playing. And then from 4:30 to 5, there's going to be a costume parade where all the kids are going to parade out the Willett Gym, up the little hill to the parking lot where we've invited departments, city officials, as well as candidates to come and do trunk or treat, where the kids will go around and do kind of a trick or treat thing. Be a nice way to bring everyone together, and what's been a little bit of a tumultuous few months. So please, if you have pre-K to 4th grade age kids, come on down. The Youth Commission has worked so hard on this, and you know, one thing that's important about the Youth Commission is they do all this stuff themselves. You know, it's with the help of their parents, and they come up with the ideas, and they talk about the ideas, and they sit around the horseshoe, and, you know, it's really a pretty cool experience. So if you could come out and support the Youth Commission, that'd be great. Council, thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. All right, so I am going to,
Junior trunk or treat.
Sure.
so I guess I'm going to come out of recess at,
8:23.
oh, thank you, because I can't see for beans over there, so 8:23, okay. And just to make it clear that the members of my committee for zoning and land use, I'm opening it up at 8:23, is Councilor Cooper and Councilors Jackson. So these are the folks that will be voting on my motions for tonight. And tonight I have two motions. The first motion is from the docket of November 7th, 2017. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to accept the attached revised Cumberland Farms 80 County Street permanent and temporary easement deed that was accepted by the council on September 5th, 2017 for the purpose of constructing the Blue Way Riverwalk Connector Project. This vote will correct the Scrivener's error cited $525, it's a big error, which should be $3,000 in the deed.
Second.
Thank you. So I think that's pretty explanatory. Actually, a couple of things are going on here. Not only are we correcting the Scrivener's error, but also there was one additional business I think they were waiting for, and now it's complete. Even though we did vote it, we voted it with the contingency that we were going to get that additional business, and now it's complete. So, all right, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No nays, no nays, okay, thank you, the motion passes, thank you. Okay, now, here we go. The sign ordinance, and I'm gonna apologize up front, but I have to read this into the record in its totality. So, I'll just try to do the, let me make sure I get this. I did read it, but it has to be read again because we had to redo the entire motion again. So it was read previously, but it was, The reason why we're doing this again is because of some timing thing that went on. Yeah. Yeah, I thought I did. I probably read it a few times, more than I want to.
Changed?
Yeah.
Nothing has changed from that time, but what I'm being told is I have to read it in again. I'll make it really quick, and I apologize.
Do you want some help? If you
I do.
Get it out.
Yeah, you know what? That's correct, and I'll give out a couple of pages here. Yep, so each one of you, if you would, take a page. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So we're going to share the task of reading, and thank you so much. So I'm just going to start in and just read the ordinance. In accordance with Master General Law, Chapter 40A5 and 17-1.6 amendments of the zoning ordinance by inserting Section 17-16.0 signs as follows. Be it ordained by the Municipal Council of the City of Attleboro that the zoning ordinance be amended by adding thereto to the following 17-6.0 signs. Section 17-6.1 Intent and Purpose. It is the purpose of these provisions to enhance the appearance of the city by lessening the haphazard placement and clutter of signs, as well as to provide a business-friendly climate that is also compatible with the surroundings of the environment. It is recognized that signs perform important functions for wayfinding, communicating messages, and providing information about goods and services. It is further recognized that the signs can have potential detrimental impacts on the visual and perceptual environment. Therefore, signs must be regulated in order to, 1, promote the safety, comfort, and well-being of users of the streets, roads, and highways. 2, boy, I'm losing the whole audience here. 2, reduce distractions and obstructions from signs which would adversely affect traffic safety and alleviate hazards caused by signs projecting over or encroaching upon public ways. 3, discourage excessive visual competition in signage and ensure the signs aid orientation. And 4, enhance city character by encouraging new and replacement signage, which is A, creative and distinctive, B, compatible with the surroundings, C, appropriate to the type of activity to which it pertains, and D, appropriately sized in its context so as to be easily legible. Section 17-16.2 applicability. This provision of the section apply only to those signs which refer to permitted use as set forth in this ordinance, provided such signs conform to the provisions of this section. All signs shall comply with the regulations set forth herein. Signs shall be erected, displayed, and maintained as provided for this section 17-16.0 signs. Section 17-16.3 definitions. Sign. Any display of lettering, logos, colors, lights, or images visible to the public from the outside of the building or from a traveled way, which either conveys a message to the public or is intended to advertise, direct, invite, announce, or draw attention to, directly or indirectly, goods, products, services, or facilities available or use conducted either on the lot or in any other premise, excluding window displays and merchandise. Animated signs. Any signs that uses movement, the visual impression of movement, sound, or change of lighting to depict action or create a special effect and or scene. Such signs include, but are not limited to, those that give the impression of flashing, blinking, oscillating, expanding, and contracting. Awning/canopy sign. Any sign that is part of an attached to an awning, canopy, or other fabric, plastic, or structural protective covering of a door, an entrance, a window, or an outdoor service area. Bulletin board, a board or wall area on which the bulletins, notices, or displays are temporarily posted. Such signs shall be for the public, charitable, or religious purposes and shall be located upon the premises of said institutions. Construction sign, any sign whose purpose is to display the name of the contract and or subcontractors employed on a work site and or the consultants and or financial institutions participating in the project. Such signs shall be temporarily in nature and shall be removed upon completion of the project. Electronic message center. Any sign that utilizes computer-generated messages or some of the other electronic means of changing copy. These signs include display using incandescent lights, LEDs, LCDs, or a flipper matrix. I have no idea what that is. The images and messages displayed must be static, and the transition from one static display to another must be instantaneous to the human eye without having any transition effects. Transition effects include wipes, fades, or other special effects. Directional sign. An on-premise sign that directs vehicles and or pedestrians onto, around, and or off a property and which may contain the name or logo of an establishment but not advertising copy. Freestanding pylon sign. Any sign supported by a structural device such as a post, a pole, a pylon, or other framing or supporting devices that is placed on or anchored onto the ground or that is independent of any building. Government sign. Government signs include all signs erected by or on behalf of the United States of America, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and or the City of Attleboro traffic controls, legal notices, or any other signs required by law, including all signs erected under the authority of the City of Attleboro on city-owned or controlled land. Historical landmark signs. An older sign or artistic or historic merit, uniqueness, or extraordinary significance to the city as identified by the Attleboro Historical Commission, or a new landmark sign that is made a permanent or integral part of a building to identify a property of historic significance by name, date of erection, and so forth. Incidental sign, a sign generally informational that has a purpose secondarily to the use of the lot on which it is located, such as no parking, private driveway, loading zone, no trespassing, and other similar directives. No sign having a commercial message or a logo shall be considered incidental. Illuminated sign internal. A sign lighted directly or indirectly by light fixture located within the sign structure and designed to project light against the surface on which the sign lettering or graphics are located. Who has page 3?
I do.
Thank you.
Illuminated sign external, a sign illuminated by a separate light fixture that casts light directly on the face of the sign. Logo, a distinctive emblem, symbol, or insignia identifying a particular product, service, business, activity, or entity. Marquee sign, a sign attached to, in any manner, or made part of a permanent roof-like structure projecting beyond the building which is used as a theater. Such signs shall not extend beyond or be attached to the underside of the overhang. Monument sign, any freestanding sign having a support structure that is solid, appearing base constructed of permanent materials such as concrete block, stone, or brick, and is in contact with or within 1 foot of the ground. Off-premises signs, any sign including but not limited to billboards, advertising, or calling attention to an activity, product, or service not available within a building or upon the parcel of land where the sign is located, except that for the purpose of this ordinance, subdivision identification, political, government, and temporary signs shall not be deemed off-premise signs. Open space identification sign, any sign used to identify entrances to parks and open space. Such signs may include information relating to features and facilities, interpretive signs informing visitors about what they may see or experience, maps, and so forth. Political sign, a sign which advertises a candidate or candidates for public elective office, a political party, or promotes a position on a ballot question or public issue. Pre-existing non-conforming sign, a sign which was in existence prior to the enactment of this ordinance or any amendment thereto. Projecting perpendicular sign, any sign affixed at a right angle to a building or wall. Such sign shall have no more than 2 faces. Real estate sign, any temporary sign advertising the real estate upon which the sign is located is being for rent, lease, or sale. Roof sign, a sign which is located above or projects above the lowest point of the eaves or the top of the parapet wall of any building of or which is painted on or fastened to a roof. Sidewalk sign, any double-sided portable sign designed as an A or T frame. Sidewalk signs are subject to Section 11-13 posting signs of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro. Subdivision identification sign, a sign at the entrance of a single integrated development consisting of 2 or more lots which advertises or identifies, for example, the name of a residential, commercial, or industrial subdivision, the address and/or occupant of the premises, and/or directional and parking instructions with respect to the development. Temporary sign, any sign, including a portable sign, which is used for limited time and is not permanently installed or erected. Vehicle sign, any sign on or affixed to an inoperative bus, car, boat, trailer, truck, or other motorized vehicle that is not used in the activities of the business that is parked on public or private property with the primary purpose of providing advertisement of products, or that is directing people to a business or activity located on the same or nearby premises. Wall sign, any sign attached parallel to and within 10 inches of a wall painted on the wall surface or erected and confined within the limits of an outside wall of any building. Window signs, any sign which is painted on a window pane, mounted onto a window pane, or hung directly inside the window. Building permits. A building permit shall be obtained from the inspection department prior to erecting, replacing, rebuilding, or relocating any sign regulated by 780 CMR Massachusetts State Building Code. Any sign requiring a building permit shall require a final inspection upon completion of work. Section 17-16.5, other prohibitions. A, in addition to those signs prohibited under Section 17-16.8 or permitted signs and dimensional regulations, the following signs shall not be permitted, constructed, erected, or maintained. 1, any advertising or identifying a business, activity, product, or service no longer produced or conducted on the premises upon which the sign is located. Signs within a public right-of-way, except for those allowed by the government and perpendicular signs as permitted by the building commissioner. 3, signs which resemble, imitate, or may be confused with official traffic control signs or signals. 4, signs which constitute a hazard to pedestrian or vehicular traffic, such as by obstructing sight lines from streets or driveways, or that constitute a hazard to the general public, such as by blocking doors, windows, fire escapes, or other exit-way elements, or as a result of poor maintenance, damage, or abandonment. Section 17-16.6 exemptions. A, for the purpose of this section, the following signs are allowed by right in any zoning district subject to their definitions in Section 17-16.3 definitions and the dimensional regulations outlined in Section 17-16.8 table of permitted signs and dimensional regulations. Such signs may still require a building permit. 1, political signs.
Incidental or notice signs such as no trespassing, no hunting, private driveway, no dumping, and so forth, which contain no logos or advertisements. Temporary, seasonal, or holiday signs, banners or flags, and emblematic, I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, emblematic of or issued by national, state, or local governments, clocks and thermometers displaying no information other than time and temperature, landmark signs or commemorative tablets when made a permanent and integral part of the building. Section 17-16.7 General Sign Standards. Illumination standards. The light force for all externally illuminated signs shall be effectively shielded to prevent beams or rays from being directed on any roadway or abutting residential property. No lights or lighting effects shall be used on any sign if the building commissioner deems such light or lighting effect to pose a conflict with those used in public safety or traffic control and thereby create a hazard to the operation of motor vehicles. No sign may be placed, constructed, or erected if the building commissioner deems illumination to constitute a hazard to pedestrian or vehicle traffic because of intensity or direction of illumination. All illuminated signs shall be turned off 1 hour after business closing and shall not turn on again until 1 hour prior to business reopening. B, illumination standards for signs and electronic message centers. In addition to the standards identified in the above section, the following criteria shall apply. Each electronic message center shall be equipped with light-sensing devices that automatically adjust the brightness of the sign as ambient light conditions change. No electronic message center sign shall exceed a brightness level of 0.3 foot candles above ambient light as measured using a foot candle lux meter at a preset distance in accordance with the following procedure. At least 30 minutes past sunset, record the ambient light while the sign is off or displaying all black copy. The light meter shall be held 5 feet above the finished grade as close as practical to a perpendicular plane of the sign. The meter shall be aimed toward the center of the automatic changeable copy sign. From the same location, a second reading shall be recorded while the sign is on and not blocked. If the difference between the measurements is 0.3 foot candles or less, the brightness is properly adjusted. Otherwise, the billboard must be adjusted to comply with this standard. The measurement distance shall be determined using the following formula. The measurement distance equals the area of sign and square footage times 100. Proposed 50 square foot sign, which 50 times 100 equals 5,000. 5,000 equals 70.71 or 71 feet. Therefore, the foot candle's measurement shall be taken 71 feet from the sign. All electronic message centers signs shall contain a default design that will freeze the sign in one position if a malfunction occurs. Number of signs. In the case of a lot with multiple tenants, i.e. shopping centers, there shall be no more than one freestanding pylon or monument sign per lot. Where a lot contains the required minimum frontage along more than one street, a second freestanding pylon or monument sign is permitted. There shall be not more than one wall sign, canopy sign, or projecting sign affixed to the exterior of a building for each occupying therein. Placement standards. Signs shall not obstruct any door, window, or fire escape on a building except as otherwise provided herein. The placements of signs are not subject to setback regulations, provided, however, that no sign shall constitute a hazard to pedestrians or vehicle traffic, such as by obstructing sight lines or by blocking free ingress or egress from a required door, window, fire escape, or other required exit way element. Sign area computations. Sign area for single-face sign shall be computed as the height multiplied by the width of the whole face of the sign. The area of supporting framework, for example, brackets, posts, etc., shall not be included in the area if such framework is not included in display. When a sign has 2 or more faces, each side may contain the maximum area, provided the signs are no further than 2 feet from each other. Sign height setback and computations. The height of any sign shall be measured from the base of the sign at a grade to the highest point of the sign. Grade shall be defined as the naturally existing topography of the ground, any filling or mounding such as a berm above the naturally occurring grade to artificially increase the height of a sign shall be counted towards the height of the sign. Thereon.
And number 2, the setback of any sign shall be measured from the edge of the sign that is closest to the property line. G, no sign shall emit any sound. And that's it.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your assistance too, because I'm sure I would have
Lost your voice.
got to the point where I couldn't say it anymore. So we had a presentation on this, and we did have a couple of individuals that did want to look at, sort of a geographical or business zoning area. I know that's not in here right now. I think this is a pretty significant ordinance. Took a lot of work to get to this point. And that, I know we've talked about different things, sometimes you can get a little compromise. I think this is one of those things that if we find that it's really severely causing difficulties and somebody wants to, come back and ask for it to be relooked at again, I think that's probably the best way to handle it. We can always change these things. It can always come in and be asked for again. It's always an opportunity for new business. So I'm going to encourage people, my counselors, fellow counselors, to vote this in with the idea that, it's like a lot of things we've done. We said, let's take a look at it. If it doesn't work, then we'll look at it again at that point in time. So I think this is a pretty solid ordinance for the moment. And if we find at that time the cost problems, one of the things I have to tell you, I was looking at the, is it O'Reilly Auto Parts? And I said to myself, they restricted that sign and they negotiated with them on that sign. And I'm kind of looking at that and I'm saying, I don't think that's going to cause a problem. I don't think it's going to cause a problem for either of those two businesses to do that. So that's just my opinion, but yes.
So are you voting this out of your committee tonight?
I'm voting out of my committee tonight.
So, if I may.
You may.
When Mr. Jacoby came and spoke in front of us, there's some things that I agreed with, some things I didn't agree with. I think when we asked him, or I asked him to give me his short list of 5, but as an attorney, he gave us 6, and then came back with the 7th. I think that those particular parts, I would have liked to have seen that revisited to see if we could put some of those things in, because there are some, like the window signs and how much window space they can take up, that's severely restricting. And, I know that businesses that are currently in existence don't necessarily have to conform to that until they make changes. And I have seen signs like the new Capron Park Dental, they came in and made changes to their signs, and it's a beautiful and lovely sign, and it's great. But I think that there's maybe a little bit more work that would need to be done on this to make it a more fair and equitable ordinance to businesses. And so I'm not 100% certain if I'd be able to support it in front of the full council because of that. I do appreciate the work that you've done on it. It is, and the work that the planning board has done on it, but I think that there are ways that sometimes, we say that we're business friendly, and sometimes we get a little bit too restrictive sometimes, and I think this is a very important area for businesses to get their name out there, so those are sort of what my concerns are, so, you do you.
No, I get it.
But it isn't something I don't know if I'll be able to support it on the full floor.
Sure, and I understand those concerns, and I think that, I thought about this a lot, because I like to be very business friendly too, and I'm not really as convinced that it's really going to cause anybody damage to their business by the kind of sign. I understand certain businesses have certain logos, certain signs. Like I said, I went to O'Reilly and pretty much didn't see that them having to have a smaller version of their logo or their name is going to cause them a problem. But, my thing is I'm very willing to look at that if that really does cause a problem. So I'm going to vote yes for it, but I do respect the concerns, and I do respect the concerns of the business population.
If I may
Yes,
just respond to that, I guess my question would be, how would we know? Like, the only time that we would find out if there's pushback with regards to the specific limitations as it pertains to these signs is when the businesses come, apply for their permit, and then either they have to conform to what's already there, whether it may or may not be a business industry standard for that. I think I've referenced before, like this, the town of Plymouth has figured out a way that there are certain areas are under these very restrictive constraints, and then there's the big box store section of town. So I just, you know, there are many hoops. Sure. And again, it's a matter of, there are many hoops that the businesses have to jump through to be able to even establish themselves. And this one, the way I read it, I agree with some of it. I don't agree with all of it. Sure. But that might, because there was nothing else done to address some very specific and real concerns, then again, I might not be able to support it.
Yeah, and I think the answer to your question is, as I've seen in your own business here with Beagle Club Road and also with Harvard, you asked the question, well, how are we going to know? Right. We said, let's go press on with it, and we'll watch it, and if there's a problem, then we have the opportunity to come back and revisit again. So I'm going to ask the council to apply the same logic in this particular business, because we've applied that logic. We've applied it already in several circumstances, and it seemed to work out well. So I'm going to ask the council to please apply the same logic here. Any questions?
I just want to say, Jules, because I know how hard you worked on this, so I just don't want to throw it out when we vote on it. Well, not you, but, you know, everyone in the zoning. What I mean is, you know, the entire group. I understand that. And, but I feel the same way. For me right now, I think it's overly restrictive, and I just have to say that I won't be voting for it. But I do understand everything and the way that it goes. I just think it's overly restrictive. That was my own personal opinion.
Any other? Go ahead.
Thank you. And as I always say before, and you're a facilitator of this. You're the chairman of the committee facilitating this through, as everyone else does. And I always say I don't take it personally if somebody votes against something. So even if, I don't know, next week, I've been going back and forth myself too. And I always say, people shouldn't take stuff personally if people vote for or against something, because you're the facilitator that this was brought to you as the chairperson that you've had to work on. So thank you for all your efforts, and we'll see next week how I vote.
If it makes out of, yes, Councillor Blair.
Well, being a previous business owner in town for 50-odd years, I think it's a little restrictive. I personally think that when you go in and tell a business that he can't put up a certain size sign in his window, and it gets to a point where it's tough enough to be in business, but to over-regulate a business, especially an established business, because this affects a lot of established businesses also. I've got a lot of ifs and ands about it, and in my opinion, the way it is, I think it's over-restrictive, especially to ongoing businesses that are struggling to stay alive.
Well, I think that was addressed by Mr. Erasian, that there wouldn't be that going on. And so perhaps we need to have Mr. Erasian come back in again and discuss this one more time, because I think already there's misunderstandings being brought back in. So, Councilor.
Thank you. I think people, if they find that it's an issue with their business, and they're going to complain, just like with everything else that we deal with. You know, if they're not happy, they're going to complain to us, and that's when they'll come before us and say, hey, this isn't working out. What can you do for me? How can we change this? What needs to be done? And that's when we'll work on it, I think. If we need to repair whatever needs to be adjusted.
Yeah,
I guess I'm not necessarily opposed to Gary coming back to talk through some of the points, but I wrote Jack's things down. It was the overlay, which we talked ad nauseum about. It was regulate animation. It was allow wall signs. It was pylon sign changes. It was remove this window signs language so they could put signs in the windows and have a variance procedure. And of all of those, the one that was concerning to me, and I is the variance procedure. So I think that they are subject to the regular procedure for a variance if they wanted to do any one of those other than the overlay, right? So, to filing a variance if they wanted to put in, for example, an animated sign and put window signs in. But I don't necessarily know that the variance procedure is something they're all gonna wanna go to when you look at the number of signs that Jack pointed out, but I think that there needs to be some sort of variance procedure, so I'm interested in that. So I think perhaps I'm on your committee, I think maybe we do have Gary come in, talk about the variance procedure for this, so that everybody's clear, so that if it is too restrictive, then we know what the variance procedure is when we get those calls, right? If we get the complaints about specific issues, or a business wanted to come in town and has, other locations in the city that they put up a billboard or a certain location or signs in the windows, and then, I'll pick on Advance, they have one here, they put one out on Route 1, and now they want to put window signs in, and they've always done it. Well, now they can't by this ordinance unless they file for a variance. So I think that's important for everybody to understand what that process is going on. That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councilor Delisi?
Thank you. I don't want to belabor a lot of the points, but I always get a little wary with over-regulation, as well as painting with a broad brush. And my question to Mr. Arazian during the public hearing was around the whole overlay. And in order to do that, that's going to be more of a Herculean effort than we've already seen, which yourself, the plan board, everyone involved. I think we do need some semblance of a variance procedure. I think that, personally, I think it's very restrictive, because Attleboro is so unique in the sense that the different areas of the city are so unique that I think just painting with a broad brush could be detrimental. But I think we're in a situation where we can continue to flush this out and maybe make some of the changes that I think a lot of us kind of see that we could make to make this a little more effective, give it a little more teeth. So if there is a possibility, and I know I'm not on your committee, I'd love to have Mr. Arazian back down and just kind of work through this with everyone.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, because like I said, some of the things need to be re-answered and re-asked now that we've kind of had a real chance of this is a very large, motion, if you would. And I think that, we probably could ask some of the questions. I know that the question came out about the overlays too, or at least I know I asked afterwards about the difficulties with the overlays, and he gave me an explanation, but I would like for all of you to hear that explanation, and to see if that's a valid thing. So I guess the best way to do this is to
Leave it in committee.
leave it in committee.
Withdraw it.
And withdraw the second?
I said,
You did.
I withdraw my second.
Thank you. So we'll do that, and I'll have Gary come in again, because I do think some of the things can be worked out, like we said, as we go along. I agree that we're going to know when people make complaints, but, we want to try to minimize those complaints right off the bat. So I do agree with, I guess I'm agreeing with everything. This is just incredible. I'm agreeing with both sides, and I think that there can be a compromise, and I think that was my point trying to make, is I think you all did such an awesome job trying to get a compromise on some of the business that you've worked, and I've given you a chance to try to do the same thing. Okay? That's it?
That's it.
Wow, okay, so I'm going to close the, committee at Zoning and Land Use at 8:52. Am I seeing that right? Somebody?
54.
54. I know, it's like,
The call for adjournment.
and I'm going to call for an adjournment at 8:54.
Second.
Second, thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
And thank you so much for the time listening to all of this. Thank you, appreciate it.
Julie, you voted out the other one, right?
Personnel and
I'm sorry?
You voted out the other one, right?
Yes.
I did.
Yeah, okay.
Frank said we're going.
We have one motion. Thank you.
I'd like to call a committee on capital improvement and city development to order at 8:54. Sitting on my committee is Councilor Cooper and Councilor Reynolds. But as always, we take input from all attending councilors. I'm going to bring just one matter before you tonight. From the docket of July 18, 2017, I move to adopt the following resolution. A vote of the City Council of the City of Attleboro on the Capital Improvement Program fiscal years 2018-2022. Whereas the City of Attleboro, the city, charter, in section 6-3D, delineates actions to be taken annually on the Capital Improvements Program, CIP, by the Municipal Council. And whereas the city's Municipal Council Capital Improvement and City Development Committee received said plan in August 2017, a historically significant late delivery. And whereas the city's Municipal Council held a public hearing on the plan on October 10th, 2017, during which no member of the public voiced opinions. And whereas the city's Municipal Council has witnessed the lack of reinvestment in capital has and will lead to catastrophic failures. And whereas the intent of the capital improvement plan as a critical integration to a financial plan has failed, being delivered after the fiscal year 18 budget was approved by default, the city reserves the right to fund, if any, the capital improvement plan on a case-by-case basis. Therefore, be it resolved that the Attleboro Municipal Council hereby neither approves nor disapproves the capital improvement program for fiscal years 2018-2022.
Second.
So, you heard earlier the president say that the capital improvement plan is not an item of dire importance. It's actually a dead issue. The way the state models fiscal planning and policy is that the state says the best to have three entities working at the same time: a fiscal policy, financial planning, and capital improvement program. And then when those three are working together, a budget is formed. If we continue to do what we've done in the past, and I want to give credit to the city planning department for a wonderful capital improvement plan. Our capital improvement plan is better than easily 80% of the 351 cities and towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It is a highly detailed, highly considered, reviewed by all department heads. The process is really very good. So I'm not criticizing the plan. I'm criticizing the plan's role in the budget and the program and financial planning and fiscal policies. So we don't have a budget in the city of Attleboro for capital improvement. We haven't had one in the history of the city, and I'm not sure that I'm going to live to see one. But as a city council, where we are charged with approving expenditures from recommendations of the mayor, I think it's wrong for us to give a blanket approval to a book, to a plan that arrives after the budget has been approved. So I think that, and I want your opinion, I want your input, that we, in this year, because the capital improvement plan was delivered after the budget was approved, that the capital improvement is in fact a lame duck, that every time any department head is going to come to the council for a capital improvement project, we're going to have to conduct and vet that request as if it were the plan. So we will call the department head to the council, we'll ask what are the conditions and circumstances surrounding the request for the budget. We will not automatically approve it without consideration and vetting, and we'll explore the alternatives in the meanwhile. I gave a lot of thought to this because in years past, we've approached this resolution in different ways. Going way back when I was first appointed the chairman of Capital Improvement and City Development Committee, we would all gather in the annex room with a laptop and a projector, and we would work on this resolution collectively. And during that time, it was an opportunity for councilors to get their opinions about capital improvement funding. But capital improvement funding is really a function set in the administration level when the budget is formed. So as a result, it was us just talking about ourselves. Fast forward to last year when I essentially wrote the resolution, and I included in the resolution all of the items that were urgently described in the capital improvement plan, and said that we certainly believe that the urgent problems are urgent problems, and that as the mayor would send them down with the money that was available, we would likely approve them. Because the charter is trying to, the intent of the charter is to give the administration a indication of the wishes and the whims of the city council. How can we do that when the budget's been approved and then we get a capital improvement plan? So, I think that this reflects reality. I think that this resolution is factual and terse. I think it's to the point, and I'm willing to consider any editing that you might care to engage in. And that concludes my comments. Do you have any immediate considerations?
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment.
You know, back in 2012 and 2013, we had the same issue. We talked about it back then, that, you know, we needed a plan, and we needed to follow through, and we needed to make sure that there was money to do maintenance and improvements, you know, and set aside that. That hasn't happened. So I would suggest that for myself, I would be in agreement with what you've done here.
Thank you.
Council Conti.
Council Cook.
Thank you. First, I just want to clarify, my comment that I made earlier this evening was not to minimize the importance of it. It was just...
I took it personally.
Okay, obviously. But the...
It's a joke.
But given the fact that normally this is something that we handle by June, to be delaying the rest of the meeting on this evening for something that we in the past have done by June at the latest, was part of the reason why I decided to just do the other items. I did want to point out just a couple of things. First, a couple of corrections. In your second whereas, I wanted to point out that this plan was not received in August. It was received on June 27th.
Thank you.
Okay, number one. Secondly, in the third whereas, the public hearing was held on October the 3rd.
Thank you.
At the 10th, okay? You know, we know that this whole process this year has been terribly flawed. I mean, not only if you go back and look at the charter, in terms of, you know, section A, in terms of when it should be submitted, that didn't happen. Secondly, out of the 4 parts of the charter, actually only B was met, because A was missed because we didn't get it at least 6 months prior to the last day of the fiscal year. C, public hearing, we missed because we are actually supposed to call for the public hearing within 14 days of the receipt of it. And if you go back and look at the record, you'll see that on the 27th, when it came down, I asked you if you wanted to call for public hearing, and you said no, that you wanted to look at it first. So the council violated that one. And then for D, you know, we're actually supposed to have voted on it on or before the last day in which the mayor may submit a proposed budget for the ensuing year. So we missed it all the way down the line. The last part, though, in terms of the now therefore being resolved, this part of the charter makes it very clear that by resolution, the municipal council shall, by resolution, adopt a capital improvement program. So therefore, we can't say that we neither approve nor disapprove, to be consistent, you know, with the charter. We should be saying that, you know, that we adopt it. We can't be wishy-washy, you know, particularly on it. So I just wanted to point those issues out. Thank you.
Thank you. So, given the input from Councilor Cook, I would change the motion for the first whereas, to eliminate the letter D, because we're essentially referring to the section 6.3 in its entirety. We'll change with the second whereas to June 22nd instead of August.
27th.
27th, okay, thank you.
27.
I thought you said 22nd. So 27, 2017. And the third whereas will change October 10th to October 3rd. And on the resolve, we will hereby not adopt the capital improvement program for fiscal years 2018, 2022, is my recommendation. Does that follow with your second? It
Yes.
does. Thank you. So, any further comments?
Yes, I have.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilor Conti. So I just want to point out two paragraphs in Gary's letter from the plan, because I think it articulates what at least my understanding of the plan was. I think yours, and I'm in agreement with what you're saying, but I think it's important to point out that just because we sent a resolution that we were in agreement with the plan or not, right? So there might have been a particular apparatus or something that was an urgent priority and we didn't think it was urgent, and we could share that through a resolution. We're not getting to that level of detail this year, and I understand all the reasons why. But I think that what is important is the purpose that Gary lays out here in his memo dated June 26th and attached to everybody's thing, which is the purpose of the multi-year capital plan is an official statement of public policy based on municipal department heads and agencies' best judgment, that's important, of long-range physical development in the city of Attleboro, acquisition of, improvement or addition to fixed assets in the form of land, building, structures, or other related improvements, more or less permanent in character, so these are sort of the criteria, right? And durable equipment with a life expectancy of at least 3 years, as well as planning documents, engineering, design, and feasibility studies. The capital plan is a proposed planning tool predicated on a 5-year horizon, updated annually to add new projects, reevaluate project priorities, and revise recommendations. The capital improvements program fiscal year 2018 to 2022 and the capital planning process need to be flexible in order to permit and sustain changes in priorities as well as changes in the city's future fiscal posture. It is endeavored that this document will provide the necessary information, and I think that it has. So again, I want to reinforce that it's not about your resolution, to me, feels more about the process than about what's in this book.
Correct.
So even if we put a resolution together that said, yes, we approve that this is a priority and you ought to do this and you should do this and you must do that, nobody has to look at it, because they still have to come down and send a requisition for the funds to pay for whatever it is that's in here, and they generally say, oh, haha, Counselor, don't forget, try to remember not to forget that it's in the capital improvements book, so we told you about it before, so therefore, you're more informed because we told you about it back in June, which I think is important for us to sort of have the history and the story. So I'm not opposed to the resolution that you've written, but I'm sort of suggesting that the process, which I think President Cook was also alluding to, the process in and of itself needs some work. And that concludes my comments. Thank you.
So, Councilor Cooper, the letter you just read has been the front page of every capital improvement plan since I've been a city councilor.
I'm with you.
And the process has been the same. The overall process has been the same ever since I've been a city councilor. And I had a choice this year of doing nothing, which we did with the budget. We did no resolution on the budget. We voted as a council not to submit a resolution on the budget, and I thought that was a little bit wrong, and I asked the council to, actually in a piece of new business, to reconsider that vote, because I think that we as a council should express to the public our opinions about how we feel about that budget, even though we didn't get to vote on it. But I didn't want that to happen here on the capital improvement plan. So I felt that it was important to give the council an opportunity to make a comment on the process this year. I am proud of the capital improvement, so I want to reinstate that I'm very proud of the capital improvement plan, because when I go to any other community and ask them for one, oftentimes there isn't one. That it's a spreadsheet somewhere, and the spreadsheet is subject to interpretation. That's a very polite way of putting it. We can do better, I guess is the whole point. We can do better than we've done this year, and we should make that point. I guess that concludes my comments. Yes, Councilor Hall.
Yeah, I think one of the things that all of those things you said are really good points, and I think the good points of the positiveness of what this document is should be addressed also. So there's some balance in there, because some of the things did come off the list. And I would like to see maybe whatever is written to be more informational in terms of the document itself, like what transpired with the document. Some of the stuff did come off the list, so it gives information, or it's a little portion of information of what transpired over the year with the actual items that were on there, because I know that some of them came off.
Well, Council, that's in the plan.
Right.
You understand that the whole plan does a whole
Understand.
big section on.
I understand the
Taken
plan,
off the
Mr.
plan.
Conti, thank you so much.
And we have not, in the past, included any of the accomplishments in the
I'd
resolution.
like for you to do that, if you consider that.
Okay,
That ends my comments.
Council Perica?
Thank you, Chairman Conti. So I think there's, with the lack of a council-approved budget and with the lack of an approved budget message, I mean, I champion to not approve the budget message, and upon reflection, within a couple of weeks of that, I regret it. Like, how we all have one or two votes that we regret. That was one of the ones that I regretted, because we worked really hard. I was very satisfied, as a council, that we sat in that back room and we worked really hard on that budget message together. We didn't agree with it in its totality, each one of us, but together we worked on it, and it was a good, terse budget message. So with the lack of that, having a less terse than I would expect from Councilor Conti message, I think I do support this. I think that, in a classic old writing style, answer the question with, you repeat the question. So if you wanted to, I don't have the language hammered out, but one of my recommendations would be like, therefore be it resolved that, the city council, I'm not making a motion right now, but utilizing part of that last paragraph just re-highlights the fact that we're approving the plan, we don't approve the process, and we still need people to come down, so that we would approve if the words that you're saying are true, that we are appreciative of the planning board, it is one of the best documents anywhere. I think that we should, because of those comments, we should approve it, and support that. But I think adding some extra language in there saying that, yep, we understand it's fluid, and we understand that there's flexibility and things like that, might make it more palatable to some of our fellow councilors, but would still allow us to have the points that you're making with regards to the process stay there, if that makes sense.
I'm trying to get it to make sense.
Well, as Councilor Cooper said, the capital planning process needs to be flexible in order to permit and sustain changes. Well, we don't necessarily want to say that it needs, the capital planning process needs to be flexible, but the submissions and things like that are not flexible. That's by charter. So expanding, be it resolved at, you could expand that section of it, and if I had more time to kind of bang this out, I would be able to give you something a little bit better, but, so I don't know if it's something that you would be willing to hold on to this in your committee for a little bit to maybe expand
Well,
that.
why not?
I'm happy.
I mean, it's only October 24th.
And I know that our next meeting isn't until, mid-November.
November 14th,
However, I
right?
think that there's a
Of which I
way-
might not be here.
Well, again, it's your committee, you can do whatever you would like with that information, but I think that as opposed to a single sentence, be it resolved, I think you could expand on that
Thank
to
you.
explain.
Thank you, Council Perica. I hear what you're saying, and
That concludes my comment.
you succeeded in trashing the resolution.
No, I didn't trash, I did not at all, I
It's
didn't.
not gonna go through the committee tonight, and it's not gonna go next week. And I'm not gonna be here November 7th. The next committee meeting is the 14th, I might not be here the 14th. You could vote it out without me. But then we're talking November, the end of November. And then we have holidays, and maybe December or next council, and that's ridiculous.
My apologies.
That's okay. No, it's good input. I'm not criticizing your input. I appreciate your input, and I think it's valid. I mean, it's mirroring what Councilor Hall was saying.
thank
Because the two of you are in the same boat, I have to take it into consideration. So I'm gonna recommend the committee does not vote this out tonight. Pass Dominicus vobiscum and sanctum.
That's great.
And that's gonna be it.
Blessing?
Yes, yes. Councilor Blaze, do you have a comment?
I was just waiting to see if you're going to bring the next motion out.
No, I'm gonna hold the next motion because I haven't had a chance to do anything about it.
Could I help you with that a little?
Yes, we can talk next week.
So you will bring it out next?
I'm not here.
Okay, so you don't want me to say anything tonight?
Nope, not on that. We're discussing the resolution on the capital improvement plan.
Because I did have a lengthy conversation with the police chief.
So I would like to withdraw the motion for the capital resolution. If you be willing to withdraw your second.
Yes, I will withdraw my
Thank you,
second.
Councilor Cooper. That concludes the business of that.
Just want to make a comment if I may.
Sure.
If you are, we are on the same committee, but if you wanted to have a committee meeting before you went out,
Correct,
you could post that.
Correct.
We could meet.
correct.
We could do it
Correct.
with, when Frank is around, I'm around.
Correct.
You're around. We
Correct.
could do that to get a resolution that may be more palatable to other councilors, and I'm happy to vote
Okay.
it out in your absence.
Okay, very good. And I'm not offended if you do that. So please do. But that concludes the business that I have to bring before the committee this evening. And I'll call for a motion to adjourn at 9:16.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Cooper. All motions in order, all in favor? Aye. That concludes the business for this evening.
You're up.
Mark, did you cancel tonight, or no?
No, it's
You just haven't gone yet?
I just have one.
Yeah, you
Yeah, I haven't
you
gotten
haven't
there
gone
yet.
yet? I wasn't sure whether to change the order here, if you were.
Oh, sorry, Jay, I didn't see.
Hey, I call the committee meeting for license to order at 9:17. That is myself and Mr. Conti. We have a second with President Cook. Let's see, from the docket of November 7th, 2017, I entertain a motion to approve the 2018 renewal automatic amusement device license from American Legion South Attleboro, Post 312 Incorporated, 437 Newport Avenue, Attleboro, Mass, for one pool table and one jukebox.
Second.
Thank you very much. This comes in every year.
Haven't had any problems.
Haven't had any problems. Truth be told, as the interim license chair, I did not make it. I'm trying to make a habit of going to the locations,
I've
introducing
been there, I've
myself.
seen it, you don't have
It's
to
great.
bother.
All right, So I'm hopping into the American
never
Legion at
used
3 o'clock in the afternoon. People might start talking, so I don't see any reason to withhold this.
You can skip that visit.
Thank you. I'll move for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you. My second one for this evening, I entertain a motion to approve the 2018 renewal Class 1 auto license from Just Trailers Incorporated, 1863 County Street, Attleboro, Mass, for 12 customer parking spaces and 7 display spaces.
Second.
Thank you. So for all of the ones that I'll be reading this evening, I've either stopped in and had an opportunity to speak with the office manager in that location, or I've given it a drive-by, counted out spots, and
So in this motion specifically, did you actually speak to anyone?
I did not.
Yeah, because he's never there.
Right. It is a renewal. I did speak with the city clerk to see if there were any registered complaints or concerns with regards to this particular business. The police chief has signed off on their information. So going by those individuals, I would have to recommend an approval.
And I would agree.
I appreciate that. I will make a motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you. I entertain a motion to approve the 2018 renewal Class 2 auto licenses from Auto Mazed Incorporated, 885 Washington Street, Attleboro, Mass, for 7 customer parking spaces and 34 display spaces. County Auto Sales and Service Incorporated, 42 County Street, Attleboro, Mass, for 10 customer parking spaces and 28 display spaces. LaPierre Auto Repair LLC, 97 Emery Street, Attleboro, Mass. for 30 customer parking spaces and 12 display spaces. North Main Street Auto Division of K&L Tire and Automotive Company Incorporated, 44 North Main Street, Attleboro, Mass. for 17 customer parking spaces and 1 display space. And Tri-Town Auto Sales, 1850 County Street, Attleboro, Mass. for 4 customer parking spaces and 6 display spaces.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Conti. Again, as I just stated, I've either done a drive-by, I've left a phone call, just with the change, but, from Jeremy for the last couple of years, or last year, handling either their renewals or their approvals, just to put a new face to it. I was in contact with some, was not with others, but again, as I spoke with the city clerk and the police chief, things checked out fine. I'll move for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. I entertain a motion to approve the 2018 renewal Class 3 auto license from Tri-Town Auto Sales, 1850 County Street, Attleboro, Mass. for 4 customer parking spaces and 6 display spaces.
Second.
Thank you. What I just said
Ditto.
2 times over. I'll move for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. The motion passes. So I would have the expectation within the couple of weeks, I will go through all of the other communications. You all heard what they were this evening. So I will go through, introduce myself, have conversations, and make sure everything is hunky-dory with our renewals. I do have a couple ones that I'm waiting for, that we have a little extra digging to do, but I will make you aware of my results.
Yeah, there's 2 sites in particular that I wish to visit personally.
Okay.
And I will independently, and I will report to the committee what I've learned.
Would it be possible for you to send me an email just so I know which 2 those are?
I'd be happy to.
I would
Yes.
appreciate that.
I think I can do that legally.
Oh, you can send it to Linda.
I will
Linda
send
can
it to
me.
Linda, yes.
That's fine. Just so then that way, if I show up after you have been there, they're like, what's going on?
yes,
So
yes.
that would just be helpful.
Okay, good.
All right, and I also don't mind splitting up some of the duty with you in that regard.
Yeah, isn't
as
that
well.
pleasant?
So that was
Isn't that
really-
nice?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
good.
great. Thank you. So that concludes the business for the License Committee. I call for an adjournment at 9:22.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we are adjourned at 9:22. Thank you.
Thank you. I will call to order Personnel and Human Services at 9:22. On this committee is Councilor Grayson Jackson. From the docket of November 7th, 2017, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $60 from account 142010005191130 Public Works licenses to account 142-01000-578020. Public Works previous year's bills relative to reimbursing an employee of Public Works for his hoisting license renewal as required per contract for fiscal year 2017.
Second.
Thank you. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's $60, and per contract, we pay for the license, and it's from last year. That's why we have to vote it out. Any other questions, comments, problems? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Motion passes. That concludes the business for Personnel and Human Service. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned at 9:23. This? This. Oh, yeah, take the paper, just get that.
Reporting for Budget and Appropriations Committee, 9:23 PM. From the docket of November 7th, 2017, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $767,595 from account 1-000-359-000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 11240-000-596000 citywide stabilization fund relative to the Peter Thatcher Elementary School project.
Second.
Thank you. Back in April 27th, 2017, there was a final year payment over to receive the grant payment, which didn't coincide. So this is going back, as you see, into the stabilization fund as promised when we took a previous vote. Okay. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $418,626.79 from account 1000-359-000 undesignated fund balance free cash to general government to account 11003000 G-596500, continuing appropriation, school department fiscal year 2017 net school spending.
Second.
This is something that we've talked about, discussion has come up in the past. This was an agreement for half the school, for the school in the city side, and I know some people have had contention about the amount, it being split or this or that, but this is the motion to go through. Any other comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you, motion passes. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $282,000 from account 1000-359-000 undesignated fund balance free cash general government to account 11241-000-596000 citywide stabilization fund.
Second.
Thank you. Back on October 16th, 2012, vote number 11, the cash reserve policy had been set to put money back into the stabilization fund. This is the 6th time this amount of money has been put back into that reserve fund that we had talked about as a council to set up. So this amount, 6th time, going back into the stabilization fund. Any other comments or questions? Oh, no, all in favor?
You have one.
Aye, motion passes, thank you.
Other question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand, we already passed the motion, I can't discuss it now, sorry. Okay, that is all the business for budget and appropriations. I call for an adjournment at 9:27 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you, we are adjourned at 9:27 PM. Thank you.
You got anything?
Yes, I do. I'd like to call the City Property and Claims Committee to order at 9:27 p.m. I have 5 motions to bring out this evening. From the docket of November 7th, 2017, I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $9,950 from account 11241-000-578-300 citywide reserve fund for transfer to account 11241-000-530101 citywide professional services in order to replenish the funds for the unanticipated cost of cleaning the ductwork at City Hall.
Second.
Thank you. I think it's pretty self-explanatory and it's something that has to be done. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to transfer $825 from account 11241000-578-300 citywide reserve fund for transfer to account 116110000-530840 clerk-preserving, and it's regarding the need for funds to purchase 3 recording binders and the appropriate corresponding record sheets.
Second.
Thank you. Again, I think all of these that I'm bringing out this evening are pretty self-explanatory. Any questions, concerns? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to appropriate $3,317.96 from account 1000-359-000 undesignated fund balance / free cash general government to account 1124-1000-558330 citywide copiers to purchase a new copy machine to be located on the second floor of City Hall.
Second.
Thank you. Again, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. It's an old copier up there, and they definitely need a new one. All those in favor?
Can I just ask a quick question? Sarah, normally, when it has been the procedure here that we normally don't necessarily buy them outright. It's not going to hold up my vote, but I guess my question, and I should have reached out to you earlier, my question would be, why are we opting to purchase this particular copy machine outright as opposed to entering into like a contract, which provides service and supplies and things like that for it. So if you would like to ask that
Want me to
question-
hold that?
Nope, you can put it through. If you want to answer that question for me for next week, that would be terrific.
Okay, so I will check on that.
And I think it's because it's under a certain threshold that they can just purchase it outright, so.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you. I always thought that these were purchased individually, that they weren't under a contract. I don't recall them being under a contract ever, from when I used to be here. But it could be, but I'll check that out and see what they're doing different.
These days.
Excuse me, Council Hall?
I'm sorry, the cost is so minimal these days that you're probably right.
I don't have a problem with it, but when I was city property and claims, I know that we had a couple of different contracts that came through for different ones. It might be because they were a larger model and more expensive or
Yeah.
more complex or whatever the case may be. It's $3,000, just over $3,000. So I don't have a problem with it, but I just was curious about that.
Okay, I will check it out for you and let you know what the story is on that. So, minus that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. To myself, thank you. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to declare the following ARA office item as surplus and available for disposition. One wood desk, which is approximately 3 feet deep by 5.5 feet wide, and the condition is good.
Second?
Okay. Again, it's just going to go up and out for sale, disposition. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I entertain a motion to approve the request of the mayor to declare the following Veterans Service Department item as surplus and available for disposition. It is a bulletin board wall unit, 6 feet wide by 7 feet tall and 1 inch deep, and it is in good condition.
Second?
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That is it, and that is all I have for this evening, so I would like to move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, and I will make that motion to adjourn at 9:32. We are adjourned.
Hard to turn around.
Thank you.
Peter, you don't have anything?
I'd like to call Public Safety Emergency Management to order. This is the only time I can speak to my two committee members, Ms. Hall and Mr. Delicio. I took time this week and had the opportunity to sit down with the police chief over his request for rifles. It seems that with the situations going on throughout our country, we just had a situation in Las Vegas, that these rifles would be appropriate. These rifles that is requested are handled by multiple people. Some of them go back previous.
Point of order, is this even in your committee?
No, but this is public safety, and I had a conversation, it's a public safety issue. I'm just explaining to my committee what it's
You don't have to yell
about.
at me, Peter. That's
Okay.
number one. And it's a point of order, and if I have a question, I have every right to ask it. And if it's not in your committee, I'm not really sure if you can discuss that, because it's not in your committee. Because I believe it's in capital improvements.
When
So
do I-
that's why I'm asking the question.
When do I talk to Mr. Delicio?
You
and
don't,
Ms.
because it's
Hall?
not in your committee. It's in his committee, so there's no reason for you to discuss it, because it's a capital improvement expense, not public safety and emergency
It's a
management.
public safety issue.
Well, then you maybe should have had a conversation with the president of the council to have it assigned
If
to
I
your
may.
committee.
Yes,
Okay,
Mr. Cook.
point more. A couple of things. The reason that this was assigned, on assigning things to committees, one of the things that we look at, and by that I'm talking about myself and the admin person, we try to be very consistent in terms of how we assign things, and it's not just something that willy-nilly I do when I'm sitting up there. If, in this particular case, this was a item that was on the capital improvements plan, that's why it was assigned to that particular committee. I understand the public safety aspects, and many times, when it comes to assigning these to committees, many times, there are several different committees that are potentially that an item could go into. For example, our ordinance books covers a whole bunch of things. Not everything involving ordinances goes to the ordinance committee, or that committee would be permanently, bogged down. That's why sometimes things involving traffic will go to traffic. Things involving, recreation or land use may go to the zoning committee, for example. In this particular case, that was an item that was in the capital improvements budget. That's why it was assigned to that committee. So technically, it is under the jurisdiction of the capital improvements committee. I understand the public safety aspect of it, and I understand your frustration and where you're coming from, but because it's on your committee, it can be talked about it has to be talked about by the committee under which it's assigned. And Mr. Connie decided earlier this evening not to bring this up. I understand the concerns, but like I said, I just had to clarify that
All right.
point, okay?
President Cook,
Yes.
then, could I ask you a question procedurally? This particular item that I can't discuss tonight, how do I get it out on the floor next week?
There is a procedure to discharge something from committee, and the rules of procedure spell that out.
Okay.
You can look that up. If you want me to look it up and give you the answer right now, I can do that, which, however the council feels. But I mean, that's the procedure that's in the rules allows items that are in a committee to be brought up by somebody who's not in that committee, or if there is a sense that an item has been placed in committee and a committee chair or committee doesn't want to deal with it. That's why that is in the rules. Everything that's in by the way, everything that's in the rules of procedure is in there not only for a reason, but based on past experience or past practice, by the way. So there is a procedure to have something discharged from committee. All right?
I will talk to you prior to
So
next.
again, that's just, as I said, does anybody else have any other questions about this particular item at this time?
No.
Okay. All right.
You adjourn your committee? We're
Okay.
done.
So, actually,
Adjourn.
okay. So, I
All in
believe that,
favor?
Aye.
Aye, we're adjourned.
I believe that all of the committees have met this evening. The one thing I would ask before you leave is to please put your minutes on the table in the administrative assistant's office. Please. Thank you.
To say, can you share? Which does help us do things. It really is
I'm very impressed with you.